We're here with our weekly podcast and info show on anything in the nerdosphere. It's game time, part of the Gaming Arts Media and Entertainment Expo franchise of things that we do in the area to help promote nerdy activities. Right beneath me, I have Greg Pullman, our director of tabletop gaming. And below Greg, we've got Philip Landergan, or Lurch, our chairman this year and previous year's director of electronic gaming. I don't think there's officially somebody taking over electronic gaming as of yet, but anyway. And then, of course, myself, I'm director of cross promotions here at Eclectic Endeavors, and we just do this weekly show, barring any technical or other difficulties, every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. at least, just to touch bases with our various members of our nerdy family and let them know what's going on in the nerdosphere. Let's go ahead and do a real quick sound check just to make sure we're sounding okay. Let me bring that up. Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check 1 2, check 1 2.
The boomafoo.
1 2, check 1 2.
Check
The
1
boomafoo.
2.
1 2. Yep. Okay, I can hear you both. So we're doing real good on sound. Should also bring up the little chat pop-up. Just a second. And pop-up chat. And what's this today? All right, and let's do the cell phone. Okay, we're ready to go. All right, we've got quite a bit of show for you guys this week, especially since we didn't have a show last week because of my electrical problems. So we're going to dive pretty much right into everything. We're going to start things off with Lurch in the video game arena. He's going to tell us about things that are going on because E3 just recently went off, and he's been monitoring that quite extensively. That's his Super Bowl right there.
And there was a lot of stuff that happened with E3. There was many hours I've spent watching all the press conferences and everything. And there's absolutely no way we can go over everything. We can't even go over all of the details of one conference, really. So we're going to just try to keep it kind of high level overall. And I mostly just want to hit up the three main conferences that I like the most. But I do want to give a couple of quick shout outs to items that didn't make it on that weren't on these three conferences as we go along. Like Elden Ring, which played during the Summer Games Fest the night before E3 with Jeff Keighley. We finally got to see some footage of that game, which is this new new action RPG that's being worked on with George R.R. Martin, famous for writing the Game of Thrones books and working on the show. So that was a huge hit for a lot of people.
And probably a big point of contention for a lot of others because they all think he should stop all his other projects and finish that dang last book in the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. I'm going to keep an eye out for more along the way. It's not... I'm not super invested in it just yet. I'm personally not quite convinced it's going to be great, or at least I'm not convinced yet that it's for me, but I am keeping an eye. It does look like it has some promise. But I think a lot of people have just been kind of chomping at a bit, begging to have something shown about it, right?
Right.
But we'll go ahead and move on to the Square Enix event, or the Square Enix press conference. This one was kind of the thing about the Square Enix press conference. So you could if you were to write down a list of all the games that they were showing at the Square Enix event, I think everyone would be expecting an A+ show out of it. I think at the end of it, though, everyone kind of felt like it was more of a C plus level show. They had, they had some stuff like they had this new Final Fantasy game called Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which has been something that's been kind of getting out there in terms of talks, but this is our first time getting to see it. It's a new Final Fantasy World game being made by the team behind Ninja Gaiden, the Team Ninja. Very appropriately named. It's, and a lot of people just kind of made jokes about the trailer because the trailer yelled the word chaos in it like every 12 seconds. But then they immediately put out I think it was about 2 days after, they put out a playable trial that was available for a week to try and play it and see get people's thoughts. And they were doing a survey at the end of the trial and everything too. And so I played through it. I finished it. It was very difficult. The final boss took me ages to get through. And I think the game has a lot of promise. The game's still like a year away from coming out, so they can do plenty more to build on it. But I do think it has some interesting promise. We got some new information about Black Panther for the Avengers video game. This new Life is Strange sequel. Well, it's not really a sequel. It's another Life is Strange game, but like Final Fantasy, each one is another group of people. We got some more information on that. But that's a game we've already seen shown several times. So while we did see more of it, I don't think this video convinced anyone new to get it. They just, the fans of it, may have, I'm sure we're really happy to see more information on it. Something that kind of caught my attention that is they're re-releasing the original 6 Final Fantasy games. They're doing this pixel remaster where they're going to re-release the first 6 2D games for the Final Fantasy series.
The ones that are 8 and 16-bit graphics, yeah.
Yep. Some people are referring to it as the ultimate 2D pixel remasters. Available for Steam and mobile soon. I don't remember they gave a release date for yet. I'm really hoping that they port it over to like the Switch or something. But
I could play it on mobile.
Yeah. I don't really want to play it on my mobile. I want to play it on a game console. But still, it's cool that they're putting this out there. If I remember right, I believe this is the first time we've gotten Final Fantasy 3, I believe, of this kind, re-released on a more modern hardware in a very, very long time.
Right.
But the coup de grace, the biggest one that got the most attention by far at the Square Enix one, is here at the top of the list, and for good reason. Guardians of the Galaxy. We finally got to see. This has been a rumored game for a bit. Getting to finally see Guardians of the Galaxy in the works. A lot of people were worried that it was going to be like the Avengers game, but it's going to be a single-player action game that, from the trailers that they put out and from the footage they put out, they actually put some gameplay footage out and talked about some stuff. It looks a lot like Mass Effect Guardians of the Galaxy. If that makes any sense.
You play as Deus Ex people?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Eidos Montreal, the team behind the Deus Ex. Published by Square Enix.
Right.
And so, yeah, it looks like, watching it, you'll be playing as Star-Lord throughout the whole game. But
so no
you get to, swapping. No character swapping, but you do give commands to your teammates. Kind of a lot like Mass Effect, where you give orders to your teammates to use their special abilities and stuff in combat or to do specific things.
Or old Final Fantasy, where you had a whole party.
Kind of. Except for when you're doing the whole party in old Final Fantasy, you were playing as all of them.
Right.
In this game, you're running and gunning and jumping. It's like Mass Effect, but with booster boots to jump and kind of float in the air while you're shooting your pistols. And then in the cutscenes, you get to make choices that affect things. They showed a bit where Drax the Destroyer, there was like this large ravine they couldn't get across. And there was a bridge, but the controls for the retractable bridge were on the other side. And Drax is like, I know what we'll do. I'll just toss the furry creature over there. And he picks up Rocket. And Rocket's like, "Do not throw me!" And you get to choose whether to let Drax throw Rocket Raccoon or tell him we have to find another way. And for the video, they chose to let Raccoon get tossed across, and he gets thrown over there. And now he's angry, and he's refusing to activate the bridge for it to retract over.
Rocket will remember this.
Yes, Rocket will remember this.
Rocket holds grudges.
It's like Rocket is angry that you've had him thrown across the ravine,
and he holds a grudge.
Rocket's gonna hold a grudge regardless. You might as well do something to deserve it.
Right? He's one angry trash bandit, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, and what's great is like your quest, your current mission is to try to pretend like you're selling a monster to some kind of monster enslaver or something like that. I forget what her title is, some beast slaver. And so, like earlier in the trailer, it shows them all on the ship, and they're trying to come up with the plans, right? And Rocket's like yelling at Gamora that she needs to sell her trinkets, and they're arguing about what they should do. And then Groot's like, "I am Groot," and you get to choose: do Rocket's idea, do Gamora's idea, or let Groot talk. And they let Groot talk. Yeah, and Groot's suggestion, all he says is "I am Groot," but they're like, "That does sound like a good idea. Yeah, we could try to sell a monster to so and so." And then I think Drax is like, I think the little one is much more of a monster than Groot." And so then they're arguing over which one to sell between Rocket or Groot. Because while Groot is a much taller, more scary looking guy, Rocket's a lot meaner. And they're like, whether you're a monster or not is based on your spirit, not your physical appearance. I suggest we put in Rocket.
He's not wrong.
Right?
Rocket can be a lot more monstrous. Groot is cute. Rocket is monstrous. I mean, Groot's secretly the most powerful Guardian, but
yeah. So
he's got to be pushed.
It looks like it's going to be fun to play. It looks like it's going to be funny. I'm very hyped about it. And
humor is a huge part of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
If you don't have humor, then you're not doing the Guardians.
Right? Yeah. Comic books, movies, everything.
Guardians is my go-to for how to do humor right in tabletop role-playing games.
Oh, right? Yeah. And so,
do you think there's going to be any kind of loyalty mechanic, like dialogue options or plot events that only happen if you've maximized friendship with Gamora or Groot or what have you?
That part, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, you do have dialogue options.
Special award for pissing off Rocket as much as possible.
I don't know yet how in depth they're going to take those options yet. Yeah. This is basically our first reveal of it. And crazy enough, despite this being the first reveal, we're getting the game this October.
Wow.
I know it's fairly early and there hasn't been much revealed. I'm just trying to speculate on how far they could push the plot and intercharacter dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
Especially since that's such a big deal in the movies.
Yeah, they're all about interpersonal character relationships. I mean, everything about it is the entanglements between the crew.
So yeah, I think this Halloween, it comes out October 26th. So I think for Halloween this year, instead of trick-or-treating, I might be playing this game. Or I could dress up as Groot and trick-or-treat anyway.
Okay, great. Well, that's a quick synopsis of what I'm sure is a lot more information on E3 from this was Square Enix? Right.
Yeah.
Some Square Enix. So if you do want more information, I'm sure I can get Philip to put a link down in the... in fact, I'll just copy this page link and put it down in the chat. And want to go to this page and see some more watch some of the videos and stuff. We did get dinged for actually watching a few minutes of video the time before, and I had to get that cut out of our previous episode, so we're not going to watch videos anymore, just in case.
And like even the videos here are like cut down. Like this world premiere video is only 2 minutes and 48 seconds. But if you do a search for it on YouTube, Guardians of the Galaxy Square Enix or Guardians of the Galaxy E3, you can get like a whole 11-minute video of the game that shows more gameplay and dialogue and all that to it as well.
And I know Twitch Gaming had some stuff from E3 that was certified for rebroadcast, but I haven't gone through and experimented with all of what is there. So
yeah. I know Jeff Keighley's show for Summer Games Fest was authorized for restreaming, but other things were kind of hit and miss sometimes, depending on what you were showing, I think. It wasn't very clear, at least, how safe it was for restreaming.
Okay, well, we'll check back in on E3 stuff in a few minutes, because we're going to kind of go through this. My first topic... now, the original producers of Dungeons & Dragons was called TSR. Tactical Simulations, I can never remember what the R stood for. I always want to say Revisited, but I don't remember. Anyway, TSR was the original company out of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin that produced Chainmail and then Dungeons & Dragons, and also founded Gen Con, or Generation Convention. And of course, they were bought out by Wizards of the Coast, who, at the release of the 3rd edition of Dungeons & Dragons, dropped the TSR company brand name completely. Well, even though there was another TSR gaming company that came about for a little while, Tactical Studies Rules. Thank you, Left Claw Studios. There we go. But just recently, it's been reported that a new TSR gaming company is being produced, and the chief executive officer of the company is none other than Gary Gygax Jr. So Ernie Gygax's son, his oldest son. So it's going back to its roots, and they're starting off with one startup game for sure, which I don't remember what that game was, but it was like a Land of Giants type game. But they are opening up back in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, even though Gen Con and a lot of the other stuff has moved to Indianapolis, and Wizards of the Coast is actually on the West Coast, working out of, I believe they're out of Washington right now. But, so TSR is back in the mix, and it's back in the Gygax family, which can be kind of iffy, because Gary Gygax's widow was often a stumbling block in bringing that stuff together. So if you're a big fan of like Dungeons and Dragons and a bunch of the older school role-playing games like Star Frontiers, the original Marvel superheroes, Boot Hill, Gamma World, all those games were produced originally by TSR, and the Dragon magazine, Dungeon magazine, and Generations Con or Gen Con. Then you can get a little bit of nostalgia by going to check out the new company TSR and some of their new product and offer back in the Gygax legacy, because Gygax really kind of invented our role-playing game subgenre. I mean, we've always been able to play like role-playing games, but we never actually called them role-playing games. We played like Cops and Robbers or Cowboys and Indians and stuff, and we did interactive storytelling as kids, but we didn't have dice and rules involved or miniatures and stuff for that. And then they had done big battle miniatures. A lot of war simulation games had come out and that's where Chainmail got its start. It was a fantasy version of a war simulation game, so you could do things like the Battle of the Five Armies from Lord of the Rings and stuff using miniatures. But then Gygax had the idea of, why don't we focus in on just the single hero and or a small group of just the heroes going on little quests. So instead of talking about the Battle of Five Armies, let's just talk about the Fellowship of the Rings, or just talk about Bilbo and the Dwarves, or something like that. The smaller tactical unit kind of thing, because they did do a lot of military games back in the day too. There was a lot of stuff like Boot Hill that did Western games where you do stuff like reenacting like Tombstone and stuff, Billy the Kid, Young Guns type of stuff, but in a role-playing game setting, maybe with Western magic added in, like Weird West, or Gamma World, post-apocalyptic gamma irradiated world where there's a bunch of mutations out. And all these games were birthed by the mind of Ernie Gary Gygax, or Gary Gygax as he was known. He used his middle name. And he is considered the godfather of role-playing games and the originator of the genre. And so being able to support his son in his endeavors to bring back the family name, the company name, which granted was highly mismanaged as a company, because these were gamers, they weren't businessmen. And that was their big failing, is they didn't know how to necessarily balance a business. They knew games and they knew gamers, but they didn't know the market, and they didn't know legal corporate structure and stuff. And it made it to where basically when his widow took everything from him before it was all said and done. But so that's just a real quick little blurb on something. I don't want to go into too much time on it, but it has been reported, and it'd be a company to keep your eye on. I know Greg is an old school role-playing game fan like me, and so he remembers
insofar as someone my age can be.
Right. Yeah, somebody my age is a little bit easier because I'm 50, but and I started at age 7. So I
didn't know D&D was a thing until right on the edge of 3.5, but
right,
close enough.
But you're a big rope, and you like to go and get those oddball ones, the ones from other countries and stuff, explore all kinds of different systems. But we all kind of give tribute to the Gygax name because it's still the name that started it all.
Yeah, one of my Kickstarters is about ready to go to print. Actually, finally.
Nice. Okay, well, and speaking of Greg, it's his turn up to bat, and he's only going to be talking about one thing this week. Oh, yes?
I just want to say, since we're on the topic of Dungeons and Dragons at the moment, there was a new Dungeons and Dragons game that just came out this week.
I heard about that. Dark Alliance?
Dark Alliance?
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. It came out on the 21st, so just a couple days ago. And it was shown at one of the press conferences. I forget which one it was, but I watched. They had a few people playing it on there, right?
It's a mobile game, isn't it?
No, it's. I mean, it might be playable mobile. I don't remember. It's available on Steam.
Almost everything on Steam can be done on mobile. But.
Yeah, it's $40 for the regular version and $60 for deluxe. So if it is mobile, it's not one of those like almost free mobos. Anyway, the reviews have come out on it, and it's kind of being universally panned by critics. Like it's getting like 4s out of 10. I think it was the IGN guy who said that it was the worst game they've played in years.
Yeah, I saw the advertisement for it, but I wasn't super interested in that one, even though I'm a D&D fanatic. Doesn't mean I play all of the electronic versions of D&D. I don't.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that a video game, that the game had so much trouble. I've seen some conversations about how Anyway, I don't want to take up too much time on it. I was just saying it's unfortunate that the game,
D&D
based on such a rich foundation, comes out so poorly.
D&D's had hit or miss
that's
history
fair.
with
I've seen
electronic
advertisements.
gaming. Go ahead.
I've seen advertisements for it all over the place. They're pushing. It sounds like they're pushing the D&D brand so hard. It's hard to actually figure out what the game is, which is why I haven't given it too much thought.
Well, like I said,
so I can kind of see where the criticisms are coming from.
They've had a very hit or miss history with electronic gaming. I mean, some of the old gold box games and stuff like Eye of the Beholder were fantastic, and Baldur's Gate. But
Baldur's Gate was good. The Temple of Elemental Evil wasn't bad.
Curse of the Azure Bonds is great. Games like that were awesome, especially for the time period they came out in. On the other hand, D&D Online, in my opinion, is one of the worst MMOs to ever come out. And that's pretty bad considering I even rated it below WoW. And I don't like WoW at all. But
you just lost subscribers for that comment.
That was the one that took place in Eberron, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of it. That was a big part of it. I'm not a big Eberron fan. Even though I'm a huge Keith Baker fan, I'm not a fan of the Eberron setting. And being forced, the first time they did it as an online MMO, they really should have gone with one of their more standard campaign settings before going off to one that was partly kind of
now you're going to lose this favor with our past guests.
Oh no, me and Keith have talked about a few of it before. Don't worry.
Yeah.
As much steampunk as there was in WoW with the goblins and gnomes, it's hard to believe that the setting was the problem. But I didn't play it, so I'm not really in a position to speculate.
No,
it's a shame that they missed out on. It's a shame that they missed out on such a huge market by having their initial push into MMO territory be such a flop.
Yeah, I mean, there's still people that play it. Don't get me wrong, but there's still people playing a lot of games that aren't necessarily the best in the market. Some things just take forever to fade if they do at all, and they have a niche following that'll keep them going. Anyway, I was going to segue over to Greg's turn at talk. This is the only subject he's really talking about this week because, let's face it, me and Lurch have a lot of content this week because we missed last week. And Greg wasn't even supposed to be here last week, so he didn't miss out on anything because he was doing Hold Fast Brewing. So I'm going to...
You sound like the guy on Clerks. I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I'm not even supposed to be here. No. Yeah, I would go into.
Long as you don't kill me off at the end of the episode.
You should be receiving a delivery of a red shirt in the mail. No, no. Anyway, here we go. He's going to talk about the Gloomhaven game.
I'm going to post a link to this to get started while Doc gets the thumbnail fixed up. Not a lot of news for me with all the in-person conventions being canceled and or rescheduled. It's hard to get any big news going on, but this is something that caught my eye. So for anyone who doesn't know about Gloomhaven or hasn't at least seen it in person, it's a box. I want to exaggerate for the sake of effect and say it's about the size of a shipping crate. It's not.
It is huge.
But it's a pretty massive box. It's pretty hefty. So when people think of Gloomhaven, they think of D&D in a box, a campaign in a box, or just like you open the thing and everything is packed in to the point where unless you're super meticulous and anal retentive, you can't figure out how to put the finished product back in the box once you finish the game. The box is the lid is going to sit on the box and have a couple inches gap open where you're just trying to pile things in. So it is a miracle of efficiency that somebody managed to turn that thing into a card game that can be played solo in one hand with 18 cards. Somebody with Cephalofair, the production company's blessing, using their proprietary art, turned Gloomhaven into a handheld game called Gloomholden that is 18 cards. And if you can see in the illustration right there, the map for the current scenario is the card on the top that has the hex grid. Each of those cards is 2 scenarios, one oriented one way and the other oriented the other way. If you flip the card upside down, basically just reverses the map, but also the way the creator tweaks the combat mechanics also changes the pacing of the game. The player character's hit point card, the monster hit point card are each on a double-sided card. So, like the illustration you're looking at now, the monster card is the brown card, and the thumb is pointing towards the 4.
Mm-hmm.
If that monster takes...
Hello, are we losing you, Greg?
It's got different orientations and siding for how many hit points the monster.
Okay, you're dropping
stats.
out on us.
And you'll
Greg.
notice. Oh, sorry. I don't
cutting
know
in and out.
what to do. Am I still here now?
You're here now.
Okay. I'll do the best I can.
Yeah, but you were cutting in and out. I don't know what was going on there.
Me neither. I can't think of anything to turn off to boost my bandwidth.
Yeah.
But
sometimes it's just a restart.
Where was I?
But anyway, we're talking about
there's
that
no
4 up there in the corner. Hello?
Yeah, the hit point tracking is pretty modular. Instead of rolling dice or pulling from a deck of cards like you do in classic Gloomhaven, one of the combat cards has a row at the top that says ABC, ABC, ABC all along the top, repeating. What you do to roll, quote unquote, is you close your eyes and slap the ABC edge of the card against a line on the other combat card, and whichever letter A, B, or C orientates along that combat line, that is the character you cross-reference to a table and see whether you get a -1, a +1, a 0. That modifies the combat.
I was still eating that.
The cards that are going along the side, that are sticking out to the side, that's the player hand that shows what cards are available. It's a lot to absorb for if you haven't played the game. And if you have played the game, you can appreciate how much this person has condensed the combat and card and hand management mechanics such that you can play a game that normally takes up an entire dining room table, such that you can play it in one hand. Not even both hands, just one hand.
I was looking on. I looked up some images online. I haven't played this specific game, but I looked online, and there are a lot of pieces there. Holy of the regular game, you know.
Well, my friend,
it takes up a whole table.
Oh yeah, a big extended table. My friend the one who won the Master Chef version of the DM battle, he bought it. And he was super excited when he got his in the mail because he got it through the Kickstarter. And it's a huge box. And he takes every excuse he can to open it up. But
yeah, pre-COVID, Metagame's table at Moon City Con had a copy for about 20% off. I came this close to buying it, but I didn't, and a friend of mine, Adam, bought it, and we played a few games of it. Fantastic game, and there's a lot to it, but once you've run through... It's one of those games where, okay, this is going to take us... We're going to try this a couple times, and we're going to fail catastrophically. Just admit that. Go in knowing you're going to crash and burn a couple times before you get into the pacing. and you're going to do okay and have a good time. It's mechanically, it's a little Dark Souls-y. You're going to lose more often than you win, but you're going to get a little bit better every time you do it. But to think that this one person condensed that entire game thematically and mechanically down to a hand of cards is incredible. And the fact that they got the production company's blessing to make this a free print and play game. You can go on boardgamegeek.com, and somewhere on there, I'll link it if I can find it. But you can find actually, is that the link there? 9 best print and play board games. No, that's not it. I'll link it if I can find it. But through boardgamegeek.com, you can download this and print it out, hopefully with some decent card stock. That way you can hold it without losing too much flexibility. Yeah.
Well, you just put it in sleeves.
You can play it for free. Yeah, or put it in sleeves. They look like standard miniature size cards, which is the same size that classic Gloomhaven uses for their items and such. And go from there.
Right.
There's a little bit of overlap I've heard between this campaign, which is original, this creator came up with it, and the core Gloomhaven experience, but not so much that you couldn't enjoy both.
And dropping it down
so
to
if you find the original to
amazing.
Be intimidating, try this out.
It's a great primer.
Yeah, so if you're if you're intimidated by the core experience, by a game that is in a box that normally would encompass 3 or 4 decent, well-produced games, and with as many mechanics as it has, try this out. Print and play it. There's a 2-player expansion, it looks like, that you can play with cards on the table, but still relatively simple compared to classic Gloomhaven. Yeah. And if it looks like it's something up your alley, check out a Let's Play video. In the same article that is showing this off, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a Dicebreaker Watch Us Play Gloomhaven, and you can watch a scenario and see if it's up your alley. So it's a great foot in the door.
So yeah, and for something like this, you can print and play it. It's only 18 cards. You can play it single player, which is always a nice selling point for something to try out before you bring your friends over to play it. It's got the original artwork with permission, so it's completely legal. I mean, what's not to like about this game? It sounds great.
Yeah.
And with a 2-player
and I found the link
available
at the very bottom. Yeah, I found the link. I linked this article in the Twitch thread. At the very bottom of that article, where it says Gloomholden is available to download and print and play for free. If you click that link, it takes you to the Board Game Geek webpage for Gloomholden, this game spinoff, and under files, it's got the Gloomholden base game, the scenario book, the rule book, and the 2-player expansion. So you can download all of those absolutely free and use them at your leisure. Just as long as you aren't obviously like trying to claim ownership of this person's indie work or Cephalofair's work.
Yeah.
Right.
But hopefully that's just common sense.
Right, yeah. Yeah, just because the game is free to play doesn't mean it's free to pirate. You're not supposed to plumb it for its goods and then recreate it and say it's yours. That's not how it works, people. That's not how it works. I mean, you can be inspired by other people's stuff, and there's only a handful of mechanics really out there, so mechanics will get duplicated after a while, but don't blatantly just rip people off. That's the thing we are never going to condone on this station. We deal with too many people that are small-time publishers and small-time Kickstarter producers and authors and artists. We know what kind of work they put into their stuff, and we would never try to steal from their pocketbooks.
Yeah.
Give credit where credit's due and do unto others.
Absolutely. All right. And that's all we have for Greg this week. So if he wanted to bow out, he could, but he's as always welcome to stay for the rest of the show or bow out after we get to the more media related stuff.
I'll probably bow out around there, but I am curious to see what else E3 has up their sleeves.
Okay, well, and that's what we're up to next is I think the Nintendo E3 conference. So
Yep.
take it away, Lurch.
All right. So the next big one that I got pretty excited about was the Nintendo E3's press conference. They kind of started off strong for me because they announced Kazuya from the Tekken series coming to Super Smash Brothers. I'm a big Tekken fan. Tekken is my second favorite fighting game franchise after Mortal Kombat, and so getting a good character and a character that makes sense for this world, like because I like Kazuya, I like Yoshimitsu more, but Kazuya I feel like is probably the best pick from that franchise to represent Tekken in the Smash Brothers world. Because he like transforms into this devil thing and grows wings and shoots eye lasers and stuff. And so it's
Transformative
a good,
characters are always fun. Yeah.
yeah. I think gameplay wise, within the realm of how Smash Brothers works, Kazuya is probably their best pick for this. Um, I love the way they handled the little trailer thing, because like all the way from dating all the way back to like the original Tekken game, there's been this like footage of Kazuya like carrying off his defeated foes, and throwing their body over a cliff. And so they do that. They do that with Kazuya, where he keeps walking over, and it starts off like serious, like it's a Tekken game. I think he's carrying Ganondorf at the beginning, and he throws him off the cliff, and then he's throwing off Samus, and then he's throwing off Mario. He keeps throwing them off, and it's slightly feeling more comical, and then he throws off the lady from Arms, and like her fist is still on the cliff as she's falling down, and the arm springing out, and then it springs away. And the last one was the best. He takes Kirby and like holds him out over, and like drops Kirby off the cliff, and then turns away and walks a couple steps, and then he turns back and looks back over the cliff as Kirby is floating away behind him, doing his little floaty hops. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Right.
I'm watching it now.
And so I had a huge laugh watching that one.
And then Metroid Dread.
Yes. Metroid Dread, the first 2D Metroid game we've had, and I forget what it was, like 16 years or something since
19.
the last time we got 19 years since we got the last 2D Metroid game.
And October 8th, Nintendo Switch. Oh my god, it makes me really wish I had a Switch.
Yeah. So it's Metroid Dread is going to be a 2D Metroid game with this like horror theme to it, where there's this machine that's stalking you, and you got to like not be spotted by it. It looks like it's an instant death if it does spot you, and it's like kind of marching around, and you have to try to make your way through the levels, these Metroid zones, but hide from this thing in some way. Oh, we just got some noise coming in here. What's happening?
I don't know.
Street racing?
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Metroid Dread was a big splash. We were hoping to see Metroid Prime 4, but I'm also, they briefly mentioned it, but they're still working on it and not ready to show anything for Metroid Prime 4.
So this is their...
But they were ready to show
while
this
you're waiting,
2D.
let's do this, yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this October, we're getting Metroid Dread. And then another game that...
WarioWare?
Yes. WarioWare is... let's see where we at. Yeah. WarioWare, which is primarily mostly... I think it was always just like handheld games, right? They were...
Yeah, a lot of them were Game Boy.
Yeah. And, for anyone not aware of what WarioWare is it's like a game of tiny micro games where you get like 5 seconds to do some sort of objective in this little game, and then you have to do that, and then after time runs out or whatever, you complete that objective, and then you get a whole nother little micro game that's for another 5 seconds. So it's a really fast paced learn what you have to do really quickly and then complete the objective kind of thing. And,
I just like it because they bring Wario back, and he's an underutilized villain, in my opinion. I think he needs to be used more.
I'm looking forward to it. I've barely played any WarioWare things in the past. Like, I didn't own any other WarioWare games. I've played it on someone else's Game Boy in the past.
Right.
And so I'm definitely going to pick this one up because I did have a fun time playing the ones that I played for the little bit of time I was able to play them. They got a new Mario Party game coming out called Mario Party Superstars.
Yeah, I think
of
I
course,
saw
they
that one
announced
too.
this like 2 weeks after I buy Super Mario Party.
Right.
So
Super
my fault.
Monkey Ball Banana Mania.
Yeah, Super Monkey Ball's coming back. We haven't had a Super Monkey Ball game in a long time.
There's a lot of classics that are being given some love.
Yeah, a lot of classics that are coming back.
Nintendo classic love.
Yeah, that was a lot of Nintendo was classic love.
It is. Seriously.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff, the old Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity expansion, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, Neopets. I mean,
Cruisin' Blast, even the old school arcade racing game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really classic stuff.
Yeah, the last time I played a cruising game was on an actual like sit down arcade machine with the wheel and everything.
Right? Yeah. If I played cruising, it was like in 1984.
I think they're a little bit too new for 1984, but maybe at the movie theater arcade.
It was at a place like 1984. It's like in a cabinet,
going to
a cabinet game.
We got this new Fatal Frame game, a horror game called Maiden of Black.
I want to get into that series. I've never played one of them.
Yeah, this is just astounding how much love they're getting for old nostalgic stuff. But then again, that's Nintendo's brand too. They play a lot off of nostalgia, and that's why them taking things out of their stores could be a fatal hit for them, because nostalgia is their big selling point.
Yeah.
A new Shin Megami Tensei.
Mm-hmm. Shin Megami Tensei 5, which I can't remember if this is a new game or if this is a game that exists but is being brought to the Switch platform now.
5 is new, I think, but I remember, seeing 3 at one point.
Okay. I thought I saw 5 somewhere else. I haven't played the Shin Megami games, but I've been seeing them popping up lately, and it's kind of piqued my interest. And I thought I saw 5 on another system somewhere else, but I don't remember. I could be mistaken. And then
according to
Wars 1 and 2.
According to Wikipedia, it's still upcoming.
Yeah.
Okay. It's probably just an advertisement.
Look at the trailer. Oh yeah, along with some gameplay, including So since they mentioned along with some gameplay, including demon recruitment and fusing, so yeah, then that means it's going to be a new game, not a Switch release of an existing game. So that's cool. That's good. And they have this new little Game & Watch for Legend of Zelda. It's got a couple of old Zelda games on it. Are you familiar with the Game & Watch?
No, not really.
Vaguely. I did some research after Mr. Game & Watch was added to the Smash roster.
Oh, yeah. I actually had a couple of old Game & Watch systems way back in the day. I'd play them on road trips.
A YouTube channel called New Frame Plus actually did a whole episode on how they adapted Mr. Game & Watch's animation style from the Game & Watch consoles, such as they are, to Super Smash Brothers, and how they made it work. How they made the controls fluid and still made it retain the jerky cell style motion, whatever they call that.
LCD.
That the character's known LCD that the character's known for. Really fascinating.
That is cool.
I wonder what the price point's going to be on those. Because it says it's going to be available November 12th. And that's just a perfect little handheld to carry around with you sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's going to get scooped up by scalpers immediately and then jacked up in
Yeah.
price to the public.
That's why I would want to grab one immediately if the price point was good before the scalpers
Yeah.
buy them all out.
Yeah. Hopefully, you can
So
only hope.
that Nintendo
Uh,
conference seems like it was the big
Oh.
one for this year. Oh my
it
god, there's a
was.
lot of great stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff here. And the biggest of which, the big grand finale of the Nintendo press event was Breath of the Wild sequel.
I didn't see Breath of the Wild on this.
It's at the very bottom of the list. It's the last item, I think.
I thought the last item was
Before
Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, Legend of
Neopet.
Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that excites me because it's another Zelda game, and I love Zelda games. I mean, I haven't played anything since Ocarina of Time, but still, I love Zelda games.
Yeah.
Lurch, I found an article link for the Game & Watch Zelda thing. It's going to be $49.99. It's got the original Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, Link's Awakening. There's also an adaptation of Vermin.
That's
which
supposed
is an
to be
original
Link
Game & Watch. Yeah.
It's supposed to be Link's centric adaptation of Vermin.
Yeah,
So,
which is an old Game & Watch game.
Not bad, but sounds like more of a collector's item than an actual.
Yeah,
release.
I might want to still pick it up for $50 because I mean, hold on to it for 6 months. You could resell it for $300.
They also showed off. I think they showed a little more of Zelda Skyward Sword, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, which will be coming to the Switch as part of their 35th anniversary thing. Weirdly, though, there is a function coming to the Skyward Sword game that is going to be locked behind an amiibo, a Skyward Sword amiibo, which is like an extra $25 or something.
Well, they like to every once in a while lock stuff behind amiibos just to get you to buy the amiibos.
Yeah, but it's like an improved quick travel or something. I forget exactly what it was. It's got some people pretty upset about it because it's like a improvement of life. It's not like it's just like giving you like a extra skin or something. It's giving you like a function of the game,
a serious quality of life adaptation. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
and then there's what was the Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camp? So they're bringing the first two onto a single disc or a single cartridge or whatever. I don't know what the Twitch uses.
Yeah, cartridge. The Switch uses little cartridges.
So it's supposed to be the first two of them redone on a cartridge.
Yeah, I only own one game on cartridge. Everything else I have digital download, and I have like a really big memory stick.
Right.
And the one game I have on cartridge is Breath of the Wild, which
and now Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out.
I originally got it as a gift. Our buddy Hawk Holman over at Fanatics of the Fan gave me a copy of Breath of the Wild for my Switch, and then somehow it went missing. I don't know if it was stolen or if someone took it out of the system and it somehow got dropped or lost or whatever. But whatever happened, my one and only cartridge-based game for my Switch went missing. And so I had to buy a replacement copy, and I haven't started up. I never finished. I have no idea how most of the game looks.
For any of the people who are interested, Hawk Holman does Fanatics and the Fans, which is another podcast that I definitely encourage people to check out. Just as an aside there, he's good friends of us at Eclectic Endeavors, and he's always at Game. In fact, he live broadcasts from Game when we actually have our convention. So definitely check that out too. Anyway, go ahead, Lurch.
So what I was getting at is I'm interested in the Breath of the Wild, but since I've never finished the original Breath of the Wild, I'm kind of being dodgy about seeing too much content myself personally for Breath of the Wild 2. Or having much frame of reference until I finish one. That said, some other podcasters I listen to have talked a little bit about it, and they mentioned how in the new trailer, in the new footage they put out, you never see the main character's face. And there's rumors going out there that you don't play as Link in this one. That's speculation, but that's what people are thinking, is that you don't play as Link. They're thinking you play as some other character, which could be very interesting, because we've had 35 years of Zelda games where you always were Link. But maybe it's time that they gave another character.
There's been a lot of characters introduced in that 35 years too, that were side and support characters that could be under the mask.
I mean, we have Luigi's Mansion. It's not a first for Nintendo to let a side character be the star for a change. It'll be the first time for Zelda, if that's true. But it's not the same first for Nintendo characters. So
I couldn't think of any recurring character other than Zelda that it could be.
Yeah, Zelda's
Zelda, Link,
but yeah, they're not all necessarily recurring characters, but
Ganon. Young Ganon, I don't know.
maybe Impa, but the character doesn't look like them. But I could see that character maybe.
Yeah, part of it is apparently the tattoos on the arms or something. Apparently, are similar to some other character in the Zelda universe that I don't recall.
I couldn't tell you.
But like I said, I'm personally trying to be a little bit dodgy of too much information about Breath of the Wild 2 until I finish Breath of the Wild 1. But I'm stoked that we now have, some more info on it. So yeah, I felt like Nintendo had a strong, it could have been a little bit stronger, but they gave us a good look at what they have coming out in the next, year-ish.
They did a strong
and that's
showing.
Really, that's a lot of, yeah.
All right, well, so we got one more E3 update coming in a little bit here, but we're spacing this out a little bit so we can do things. So my next thing is, of course, normally every week I try to lately recommend an older movie, because we're always talking about the newer stuff, but sometimes it's some old classics you can get on like Amazon or Tubi or Netflix, and it's worth checking out. Or sometimes you might have to go buy it for a discounted price on Vudu or something if it's not available anywhere else. And since we missed last week, I've actually got two recommendations I'm going to do real quick. First off, in that is a sequel I didn't know ever happened. It's called War Games: The Dead Code. Now, most nerds, even modern nerds, have gone back and watched the Matthew Broderick War Games. Classic hacker movie, pretty much the movie that made Matthew Broderick's career before Ferris Bueller. Between those two, it was basically what locked him in as a star. But a lot of people can remember the Joshua the computer, and shall we play a game? And he is hacking in because he thought a new game company was coming out with some new games, and he wanted to get early access to them. So he hacks into this system, but it actually turns out that it's a tactical NORAD combat computer that controls the missiles for NORAD. And he picks a game called Global Thermal Nuclear War and basically starts a war simulation that has everybody up, the DEFCON level increasing and everything. And that's the story of the Matthew Broderick movie, which most of us have watched. Even some of the newer nerds that after their time have gone back and watched it as a classic. Well, in 2008, Amazon produced one called War Games: The Dead Code, which is a highly modernized version of War Games, and it is a direct sequel because Joshua, the computer from the first movie, and Joshua's creator actually do cameo in this movie. In this case, the kid's a hacker, and they have developed this one video game for people who go online and use strategic thinking to make money in gaming through like staking. I don't know if everybody knows what staking is, but it's basically you bet real money on your ability to go through certain scenarios in games and or arena battles or something in games. Like a lot of World of Warcrafters will stake, and old school RuneScapers will stake in-game money. But it's a way to make money for people that are really good at video games. And the main character here, he's been in trouble for that, so he's not supposed to do it anymore. But then he was cleaning off this computer of his neighbor, who's this guy from he's an immigrant. I don't remember what country he's from, but he had already cleaned a virus off the guy's computer once before. And he gets the guy's computer again, and he finds that the guy's got this huge balance in his bank account all of a sudden. And it's because of a thing called layering, which criminals do. They go to like a friend's bank account or whatever, and they make a bunch of deposits and then just do small withdrawals over a period of time in order to wash the money. And he recognized it as layering. Well, his buddy there, because everybody's got a buddy who talks you into doing things you shouldn't do. So his buddy tells him, you should do this, because he recently was going to join the chess club just to get close to a girl, and they were going overseas to a big chess tournament. And so you needed like $550 for the tickets to go to this overseas thing. So he had to come up with that, and his buddy talks him into staking some of the layered money, because he says, hey, you'll pay it back with interest and stuff. I'll never notice it's gone. And then when the guy leaves the room for a second, he takes the $500 wager that he put originally in and adds a zero, so it becomes a $5,000 wager to do this game that's a 5-to-1 odds. But this game is actually developed by the anti-terrorist group on this computer called Ripley. And the whole point was to find terrorist cells who are doing like tactical criminal thinking, and they would analyze their play of the game as earmarks of the criminal, and Ripley would predict it and do countermeasures to stop him. Well, he gets flagged. They look at the bank account, and that gets flagged and everything, because it's of course a layered bank account. And they look at the kid's past, and he had trouble with hacking from before. And so basically now they're hunting the kid as he's going on this chess trip. And so he's on the run in another country and gets rescued by the developer of Joshua, who everybody believes is dead because he faked his own death. And he takes him to this far off communications satellite station where he's hidden Joshua, and he's programmed Joshua to underperform so that he wouldn't stand out. But this little Russian guy is the guy that monitors it, and he just plays, and he says that the Russian guy could even beat the computer at chess, because the computer is just not that powerful. But it's because he purposely hamstrung the computer's ability. And when he turns Joshua's full power on, he basically uses Joshua to attack Ripley, the other computer who's causing all the problems and everything. Anyway, the whole thing ends with them almost having a big war with biological agent weapons and what they call a decontamination protocol on the city of Philadelphia. And then later on, Washington, D.C., both because of Ripley trying to cancel out what she sees as major threats. And so they have to use Joshua to beat Ripley in the final thing. And they do that by logging into Joshua and making him play a game of chess with Ripley, there's a special form of chess called suicide chess, where you're actually playing to lose. Both players are trying to lose to each other purposely, while the other player is trying to prevent the other one from losing and making themselves lose. So kind of, it's a lot like a game of Gloom, where you're trying to kill your own people while keeping theirs alive.
Yeah.
But this is a chess type subset for really serious chess players. They go into some of these subsets. And so Ripley and Joshua end up playing this suicide game virtually, and that's what, just like in the first movie, that convinces Ripley that the only sensible thing is with this kind of game is to not play. That was the same thing in the first movie when they had Joshua play himself at tic-tac-toe, which two expert players at tic-tac-toe, it's going to be a draw every single time. So eventually Joshua's like, the only sensible thing is not to play. How about a nice game of chess? And that was how the end of the first movie. Well, the second movie, it was again, Ripley said, this game is stupid, basically. The only sensible thing is not to play. And so it ends the war like with seconds to go before all the missiles and stuff got launched. So it's very much in the spirit of the first movie, but it has totally new protagonist and new girlfriend and new best friend. In the first movie, of course, the girlfriend and best friend were the same person. But
wasn't the original movie from the 80s?
Yeah, it was one of Matthew Broderick's very first movies. I can't remember if it or Ferris Bueller was first, but they both were like neck and neck for Matthew Broderick, and they basically made Matthew Broderick's career.
So
that was
they made the sequel like 20 years later?
Yeah, because this is in 2008. So this is like 20 some years later. And it's got all the modern technology and stuff added to it. It's really a great...
Modern in 2008.
Yeah. Well, modern compared to the 80s.
It looks like War Games was first.
Yeah, the original War Games was first, yes. That was in the 80s. And this one came out in 2008.
I mean, with regards to Matthew Broderick's career, I was just Googling. It looks like War Games... Yeah, War Games was 83, Ferris Bueller was 86.
Okay, I knew they were pretty close together, but they were the two movies that primarily made Broderick's career.
He was just a wee little baby.
War Games was a little bit more niche, where Matthew Broderick was a John Hughes movie, and everybody loved, Ferris Bueller. So Ferris Bueller was a lot more mainstream, but War Games is kind of what got his foot in the door, and then Ferris Bueller solidified it. So, and that made Matthew Broderick who he is today. Although he's kind of fallen down a lot nowadays. He's getting old, and he's no longer the charming child actor that he was. And then my other recommendation for this week, because of course we missed last week, is a classic called The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Now, this is also from the 80s. It's 70s and 80s. It was the first appearance that I remember of Jeff Goldblum, of John Lithgow. It's an early Christopher Lloyd movie. Not as early as Taxi. He wasn't Taxi before he was ever in this. But Christopher Lloyd's in it. There's a lot of different people in this movie. And Buckaroo Banzai is one of those special characters. I mean, he's a brain surgeon, inventor, leader of a rock and roll group who also double as superhero type crime fighters. But without superpowers, it's just, more like the Scooby Gang kind of crime fighters. But he invents this device that lets him drive his motorcycle through a mountain, basically by driving through the empty space between the molecules and stuff. But it actually opens up another dimension, and these creatures from the other dimension led by John Lithgow's character, are trying to take over the Earth. And so he has to fight.
Buckaroo Banzai is played by the guy who played RoboCop.
Yes. I can never think of the guy's name, but yes. Him too. This is one of his first movies.
Yeah.
So there's
Peter Weller. I was like,
Peter Weller,
like, why do I know that face? Like, I was seeing that art, and I was like, why do I know that face? And I had to look it up
because it's an oil painting version of Peter Weller. Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of great actors and stuff in this movie, and there's a lot of convoluted stuff, but it's very classic, old school cartoon kind of comic, not cartoon, but comic kind of storytelling where the main character's like a jack of all trades, does everything, and he's like super good at them all, kind of character that goes in and saves the world.
Yeah.
Well,
a male Mary Sue.
That's right. And this is one of the first like comic book Mary Sue movies that came out, and it came out like way early. Like I said, it's late 70s, early 80s. I'm not sure exactly what year it came out, but and someone, if they wanted to, look that up. But it's also one that I definitely recommend, and it is on Tubi, so you can watch it on Tubi. As was the
1984.
84, yeah.
Yep.
So that's on Tubi, as is the War Games movie. Although I do believe the War Games movie is also on Amazon Prime, I think, because it's an Amazon production. But either way, both movies can be watched on Tubi, which is a completely free service. So these are my flashback recommendations for this show, basically for last week and this week. Just wanted to touch on them real quick. Now we're going to go into our last E3 update. Then I'll talk about a D&D campaign setting. Then we'll get into our standard media updates for the shows we follow every week. Okay. So probably at about that point we'll lose Greg. But let's go ahead and go into our last E3 update. So Lurch, let's hear what you have to say about the Xbox Bethesda conference.
All right. So while this last segment I'm planning on focusing mostly on the E3 press conference, I might make reference to a couple things that was shown outside of Xbox, but for games that are included as part of the Xbox stuff as well. If you may remember, a while back, Bethesda was bought out. Bethesda and everything owned by Bethesda and the company that owns Bethesda, which was, I think, Tencent, was all purchased by Microsoft and pulled into the Xbox company.
Right.
So
we covered that a couple
while
weeks
normally,
ago.
Yeah, so while normally Bethesda would have its own separate event, their event was pulled in with Xbox. And the big one, the biggest announcement from that is Starfield. We finally got to see a little bit of what Starfield looks like. It's a new game being developed by the team behind Skyrim and Fallout. They're talking about how it's the first new universe made by that team and by that company in over 25 years, or in 25 years. Basically people are thinking about it right now as, Skyrim in outer space. What was curious about it is it feels very, like they didn't show any gameplay footage. It's all just like cutscene stuff. But the vibes that it's giving off is very, almost grounded, like realistic outer space stuff. It feels like it's barely in the future. Like it's got like current day level equipment that they're working with around them, but with like, a gun on the table and stuff. I wish we could watch the video, but we get in trouble for it, potentially get in trouble for it.
Kind of like how the movie Starship Troopers, they were in the future, but everybody was still just using machine guns, no lasers. You kept expecting to see laser stuff, and it was grenades and machine guns was all the troopers were using.
I don't think we ever got to see a gun be fired in the trailer, But like, I mean, like the spaceship looks like something you imagine NASA would build. You know what I mean?
Just a level above the space shuttle.
Yeah, I'm watching it now. It looks like a less gritty version of Alien, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, they're like, and it shows them like on some kind of a spacecraft that's sitting on a planet, and they got like a mech suit that's walking around on the ground, but it doesn't focus on it much. It's just kind of, it's down there walking, doing something. I don't know what. It doesn't show a whole lot, but it was enough to get people like really excited. We're finally getting at least some cosmetic and tonal concepts from Starfield besides just like an image of a metallic flower or whatever we had before, or a satellite that looked like a metallic flower or whatever. And they gave us a launch date, 11/11/2022.
We still got over
which
a
is
year
funny.
to wait.
Yeah, we still have a year and a half to wait. What's great is like if you look at the date, it's 11/11/22, which is like 11 plus 11 is 22.
Right.
But also, it is exactly to the day. It is exactly the 10-year anniversary of Skyrim, if I remember right.
Oh, wow.
And so I think Todd Howard over at Bethesda loves the date November 11th. I think he has something for that number because it's really common for him to use. So that was a big
Easy
one
to remember.
Yeah, it is very easy to remember. Well, I mean, okay, hang on. It might be the 11-year anniversary because I think the last one was 11/11/11, I think. So maybe it's the 11-year anniversary, which I'm saying the number 11 so many times.
It was kind of a two-face, but just for the number 11.
Yeah, Skyrim was 11/11/11.
Yeah, so it's the 11-year anniversary.
But they love
that's what it is.
Double Skyrim.
They love double-digit numbers. They love those double-digit numbers, which means what? The next one will come out in 11/11/33.
Yeah.
33.
He uses 11 so much in his dates that he sounds like a Batman villain.
Yeah,
Todd Howard.
They've got to have a shtick.
DC, find a way to make Todd Howard a Batman villain.
Right?
The 11-year, the 11-teen.
The 11 man.
The 11izer.
11 tyrant.
Lord of 11s.
He attacks every November 11th.
That's right. At exactly 11 a.m. and 11 p.m.
Yeah, he strikes twice that day. 11:11 a.m., 11:11 p.m.
Looks like we
and on the 11th of every month, he drops a YouTube video giving clues about what he's going to do on November 11th.
That's right, just to build you up.
To have double digits that match, he has something really special planned.
And he gets captured, of course, on 11/11 when he does his thing. Batman captures him, but he always escapes on December 11th to start everything all over again. Or January 11th for the new year.
Yeah, 01/11.
He rides Joker's Christmas tree rocket out of Arkham.
Okay.
Okay. So
anyway,
they also showed off Battlefield. Yeah, Battlefield 2042, which is going to be a multiplayer only game. I think we talked about it briefly before, but it looks really exciting. They showed some more of that.
And that was supposed to be the one that handled like massive groups, like 64 and shit.
Yeah, 128 players on PC and next gen consoles. Yeah, that's a lot of players, and it just looks absolutely insane. I'm still curious how the whole tornado thing is going to play out because they got tornadoes interrupting all that crazy stuff. But since we've already talked a little bit about Battlefield 2042 and other shows, we'll kind of move on. Like they showed more of it. It looks really great. They got showed a couple of different conferences too. But
Halo Infinity.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to play Battlefield 2042 since it's an online only thing and I'm kind of a single player guy. But I have to say, the stuff that they've shown looks so exciting. I'm like, I've got to give it a try.
It might be worth doing just to do a big brawl a couple of times, just to experience it.
Yeah, it's something I feel like I need to experience. You got wingsuits and all kinds of things.
What you do is you invite a bunch of people over to your house with their laptops, and everybody goes to play or something.
Yeah.
Although this is like, I don't know if it's like you said console or not, but if it's Xbox,
it's on console and PC. I think it's going to be cross-platform. I don't quote me on that though, because I didn't take note of that. But I think so.
If it's cross-platform, you get a whole bunch of people that you know to come over to your house to make your squad, and I mean, obviously you can't fit 128 people in your house, but
it's 64 on each side, so
yeah, you can't fit quite 64 in your house, but you could probably fit maybe 30 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So half your squad is actually in the same physical location.
Yeah. Okay, so another shooting game was Halo Infinite. Interestingly, Halo Infinite multiplayer will be free for everyone that's on the Xbox platform. It will not be a paid-for game. It won't be. You don't need Game Pass for it. You don't need Xbox Live Gold. You just need to have something with the Xbox platform, whether it's a PC with the Xbox launcher or an Xbox console. Play Halo Infinite multiplayer.
Wow.
And I've been out of Halo for several years, but the footage they put out for Halo Infinite looks so cool. Like I was surprisingly getting hyped for the multiplayer of Halo for the first time in several years, in a very long time.
Since like Halo
I'm loving
3.
some of the armor customization.
The last big Halo release that I think everybody got super hyped for was Halo 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It was the last one I got hyped for. I know that much. I know it was the last one I got hyped for.
It's not in my ballywick of games, but I know everybody was going ape shit for the release of 3, and I lived across the street from a Blockbuster Video that was doing a huge Halo 3 release party when it came out. And then you heard nothing about it after that.
And since 3, we've gotten Halo ODST, Halo Reach, Halo 4, Halo 5, Halo Wars, Halo Wars 2.
And none of them have quite had
I think Halo
impact.
4...
Go ahead.
I think Halo 4 was the last one I heard of that got a lot of hype, and there were elements of the story that rubbed people the wrong way, and it kind of... Halo never died, but it kind of died down after that one.
Yeah. It never died with the fans that it existed, but it didn't continue to get new fans. Today, most Halo fans were Halo 1 fans, right? The kids today, and I've learned this from talking to people who are Xbox guys and listening to podcasters, Xbox guys. They're all saying the same thing. They still love Halo. They're hoping that this harkens back to Halo 3. They're getting those vibes off of the footage. But they also say that kids today, like, they'll have children that are like, who cares about Halo? My dad plays Halo, right?
Yeah.
And they're hoping that Halo doesn't appeal to young people anymore.
I didn't hear anything about 4 or 5 or Wars. I've heard the name Halo Reach a couple of times. But after
Reach,
Halo 3, I didn't hear hardly anything about Halo. But then again, I'm not into shooters either.
Yeah, and Reach was the last one made by Bungie. After Bungie stepped away, 343 Studios took over, and they made Halo 4 and Halo 5. And they were old fans of the Halo games. And so people had high hopes for them when they made 4, but then they were unhappy with where the story went for 4. And so, since people weren't happy with how they handled the story on 4, they just didn't really pay as much attention to 5. It didn't get as much fanfare. But I don't know, man. This Halo Infinite, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna definitely play it.
Hey, if it's free to play, you might as well give it a try.
Yeah.
If you like shooters, you might as well give it. I don't like shooters, so I probably won't. But
now, the single player campaign you have to purchase. If you want to play single player campaign, you have to buy it. But the multiplayer is free. That said, they're also going to be doing battle passes over time. So they'll be releasing new content for the multiplayer that you'll have to purchase. But what's nice about this game compared to other games that do battle passes, and this is something that's kind of getting me out of, keeping me away from a lot of modern online shooters, is how the battle passes have seasons. And like you have to buy the battle pass, and it's only really good during that season, during like a certain number of months after that battle pass comes out. And then they have the next season come out, and you buy the battle pass for that next season. And the old ones will expire or no longer be part of the game or whatever. But they say with Halo Infinite, they are going to keep every battle pass. They say every battle pass is going to continue existing in the Halo Infinite world, and they won't expire. So you can go back if you don't start playing it until a couple years later. You can come back and purchase any of the past battle passes still later down the road.
And something like Halo Infinite is like tailor-made, since they're making it the free platform. They could do like competitions and give away battle passes too.
Yeah,
for competition. So
it looks like Halo Infinite is trying to bank a little bit off of what has worked for Fortnite, except for adding the bonus of what I hate about. One of the things I hate about Fortnite is the expiration of things, or from what I could tell, things expire. Right, so it's something that keeps me away from it. Them keeping everything in there sounds awesome. Looks like you're scrolling down to our next game that we have on our list here is Forza Horizon 5. This is where talking about this showcase shows. Talking about this showcase kind of reveals how much favor I have over PlayStation with Xbox. I have with PlayStation. Anyway, I think I said that right the first time. So I've never played a Forza game, but let me say the reason why I never played a Forza game is because people who like Forza games try to sell me on Forza as being the Xbox version of Gran Turismo, and I hate Gran Turismo. I respect Gran Turismo for what it is, but it's not my kind of game. I like racing games. I don't like realistic racing games. I don't like them. I like arcadey racing games.
Yeah,
Forza Horizon 5
like pole position.
Yeah. But I've been watching this. I watched the Forza Horizon 5 gameplay overview, and I watched it at the E3 press conference, and it looks like Burnout Paradise, but instead of in like Florida or whatever, it's in Mexico. And they're like driving through like mud areas and snow areas and like up on mountains, and they got all kinds of different terrains they're going through with creeks and things. Going through like small Mexican towns. And I was watching it, and they had like different modes where like there's like piñatas in the streets, and everyone's racing to hit the piñatas in the streets and things like that. So it looks like an open world. From what I was watching, it made it look like it was an open world arcadey racing game that looks really gorgeous in Mexico. And now I want to play it. I've never played a Forza game in my life, and I really want to play this one. And I was like, fuck, I gotta get fucking Forza now. Which is what to do.
I'm watching the trailer now, and I'm looking at the bowling pin game. It looks like they're trying to channel some Fall Guys vibe with some of the mini games.
Yeah, the bowling pin mini game.
Very colorful, very gimmicky, but in a way that is hopefully fun and appealing to people who aren't hardcore racing fans.
Right.
I'm definitely not a hardcore racing fan, so
that's those elements of it is. There was a lot of those kinds of elements that's really appealing to me, as an arcadey racer fan. So, like most of the gameplay footage they've shown is, it looks like realistic cars and realistic dirt roads and whatever. But the gameplay itself, it's like you stop at an intersection and like honk your horn or whatever to trigger a race or something like that. Like kind of like in Paradise where you stop at stoplights and stuff. But It doesn't look like it takes the realism too serious, and that's a lot of that stuff is just. It looks great to me. It looks like it's gonna be a whole lot of fun. And so they're drawing me in. They're drawing me in with that.
I can only think of two racing games I really like. Well, 3 if you count Excite Bike, but I liked Pole Position and I liked Off Road, the one where you played the big monster trucks and kept upgrading your monster truck, and that was it.
Never played. I don't think I ever played that monster truck game. I did play a fair amount of Excite Bike. That was pretty fun. Pole Position I played a little bit of. I wasn't super into Pole Position. I played it some. I did like Excite Bike a lot. I love Mario Kart. I love Burnout games.
I don't even like.
I played a fair amount of those cruising games. That's only sometimes a racing game. I love Grand Theft Auto.
If I want to play a car game, I'm more likely to want to play Twisted Metal.
I never got into Twisted Metal. I did all the Mario Karts. I did a weird one called Extreme G that was just fun because you got to go super fast on these futuristic bikes. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was a blast.
Oh yeah, the Pod Racer. You know that's available as a digital download on the PlayStation Store?
I didn't. I'll have to look into that.
Yep. I think it's like $10, maybe $20.
That's not
for
too
Star
bad.
Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer. Yeah, they did a HD up-res on it, but otherwise it's the same game.
They did a sequel to... It wasn't a sequel exactly, but they did another pod racing game, but you got bonus points, you got bonus money if you scrapped other racers while you were racing. And I don't remember the name of that one, but that was kind of fun too. One of the not moderators, one of the hosts on a channel called Outside Xbox is a huge racing fan, both in video games and in real life. He's a big car fanatic. I'm gonna keep an eye on that and see what his opinions are on this game. Maybe we'll even get to see a demo of it.
Yeah. And then another game that they brought up. Now this is only a handful of games because in total, Xbox showed off 30 games at their press event. It was bam, 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 just game after game after game. So we're just hitting a few of the highlights.
Far Cry 6.
They showed yeah, so that's the next one on this list anyway. So we'll go ahead and talk about a little bit about this. This Far Cry 6, the gameplay looks good. It's overall, I'm sure it's going to be very similar to other Far Cry games in terms of how the game works. But one of the trailers, and Far Cry 6 got showed at several different press events over the week. So I don't remember which one was shown where. But the Far Cry 6 thing that hit me the hardest was there was a cutscene that was shown at one point. There was a bunch of not necessarily Cubans, but basically Cubans, the people of this fictional made-up country that's very similar to Cuba. Were trying to escape on a boat, right? In the under parts of a boat. To, I don't know, probably America or somewhere, right? So they're trying to escape, and all of the footage, the camera is only at the bottom of the boat, right? And they're talking a little bit about the struggle or whatever of getting free or whatever, and then they hear noises outside and they notice the boat stops. They can feel that the boat stops, and then people start stomping around above them, and the door opens up and people come down the steps with guns, and they're whatever the title is for their president of that fictional country, that Esposito, or hang on, what's his name? I feel like I'm mispronouncing his name. Anyway, Giancarlo Esposito. He comes down. His character comes down the steps, and he tells this little story about whenever he was a little boy. And this is really tense because it's a real dangerous, tense moment, right? And he tells this story about whenever he was a young boy and his father would take him out on the boat all the time to go fishing. And he taught him if they got a small fish, they would throw it back. They were out there for the joy of the fish, of the fishing, not because they needed the food or whatever. But every once in a while, he would catch a fish that was just way too big of a catch to toss back. And he's like, and I think today I have caught a fish that is way too big to throw back. And then he does some kind of gesture or says something that gets the attention of someone that's like in the back of the crowd. And it's like this boy that walks out and like lowers his hood, and it's the son of this guy, of this president guy.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's, scared or whatever. And it's just like really tense scene of this president coming and catching in person his own son trying to flee the country. That's how twisted the villain is of this game. He's like a 12-year-old boy trying to flee in the bottoms of a boat with other people fleeing the country. Anyway, it's just this real tense scene that kind of gives me some... It feels almost like it was directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's that kind of tension. And it gave you these chills, and I was like, all right, I'm sold. I gotta play this game now.
Well, developing that kind of
if I get these chills from the trailer for the game... Yeah. If a trailer for a game can give me this kind of tension and give me this invested in like the 6 minutes that it lasted or whatever, then I have to see what the rest of the game is going to be like.
Right.
And so, yeah.
You get invested real quick.
Yeah. So, yeah, Xbox, I mean, this is just a small handful out of the 30 games they showed. And what's even crazier is of those 30 games, which are all releasing between like now and the end of 2022, 27 of those 30 games will be day one releases on Game Pass. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, you just get that game.
That's going to add value to that Game Pass by quite a bit.
Yeah. And like they even had like a calendar that showed, and we're going to be getting like at least a game, sometimes 2 games, day one release on Game Pass every month for like a year and a half. Of what we're being told about now, of what we were told, of what's been shown to us now. There might be more surprise announcements later too.
Yeah, that's not counting anything that hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah, and they even said, and today or maybe like later this week or whatever, we're about to drop another. And outside of these 30 games we're showing you, we're about to drop an additional 10 games all together from Bethesda Studios onto Game Pass that are like, classic Bethesda games on top of what was already released. So
that's going to give Xbox a good strong showing in the market again.
Yes.
They were falling a little behind.
They're doing a lot of crazy stuff.
Well, they were falling behind PlayStation for a few reasons. But I think one of the best things they did was acquire Bethesda, which gave them a heck of a list of titles they had access to. And then throwing them on their Game Pass is going to draw a lot of people into subscribing to the Game Pass. It's just going to make it... Game Pass will be the subscription service to have if you're an Xbox player at all.
Yep. And a lot of it you can play without an Xbox.
Right.
They're doing everything they can to make that stuff playable everywhere else. They're even talking about using their xCloud service to stream Xbox Series X games to an Xbox One.
Huh.
So you can use the old hardware of your Xbox One to play a cloud version of a Series X. Is that wild?
Insane.
That is
that could seriously hurt.
That sounds convoluted, but
that could cause Sony to have to really up their game, which Sony's game has been really strong for a while, and that's of course why Xbox has had to go through these links, probably is to try to steal back some market share. But it's going to be one of those teeter-totter effects, and Sony's going to have to come up with something just as revolutionary, and Sony's going to have to buy out somebody and add their titles to the game, the PlayStation Now or PlayStation Pass stuff.
Yeah, and while PlayStation didn't hold an actual press conference themselves, they did have a couple of mentions in other events, other press conferences for developers that are working with PlayStation on something, right? Like there was a studio called Deviation that announced that they are partnered with PlayStation to work on a new IP. And Deviation is a new studio that's made up a group of a bunch of veteran game developers, many of which are known for like making first-person shooters like Call of Duty and stuff.
Which is historically
and,
not PlayStation's forte. First-person shooters is just not what PlayStation normally does well.
I mean, they make great first-person shooters,
but they don't make a lot of them. Unlike Xbox, PlayStation first-person shooters are few and far between. It's just a genre they don't focus on as much.
Not PlayStation exclusive shooters, at least.
Yeah,
right. Well, there's a lot of cross-platform stuff, but
right. I'm trying to think of PlayStation. I'm trying to think of Xbox first-person shooters that are exclusive and made by them. That's not Halo, though. I mean, they got Gears of War as a third-person shooter, and then Halo as a first-person shooter, and then I can't think of any other major shooter games that's made by that's like considered a first-party title that's exclusive to them. But anyway,
probably are.
Doesn't
we
matter.
Just can't think of them right now.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that's done with our E3 update for this week. I mean, it's already 9:41, and we haven't quite got into media yet.
And there was so many things, you know. Death Stranding is getting a director's cut. Hideo Kojima made an appearance for the PS5, which the announcement trailer for that gave very, very strong Metal Gear Solid vibes and made jokes about Metal Gear Solid with the cardboard box, and there's just a lot of stuff.
People really want to go through and find the videos from E3 on YouTube and watch them themselves, I think, because there's a ton of information and we could be here all day going over it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, well, we'll drop that for now, but that doesn't mean we won't touch on it again in future episodes because there's always more stuff that will come to mind. I have one more thing to talk about before we go into our weekly media extravaganza, and that is just a real quick mention of a Kickstarter out there now. For those who play Dungeons & Dragons, the 5th edition, of course, is the new one. There is a Kickstarter out, and it's actually funded for Adventures in Oz, the world of Oz, Wizard of Oz source book campaign setting that you can go in and you can pledge to on this project. And if I remember correctly, the project is pretty much twice its funding goal, so it's funded and still has 21 days to go. But I just wanted to touch on it really quick because I think most of us grew up with Frank Baum's Oz, Wizard of Oz at least. Some of us even watched Journey Back to Oz with Firuza Bulk, or some of the cartoon Oz versions.
It's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's
the famous movies came out. I mean, even Captain America understood the flying monkeys reference.
Right, and he pointed that out. He said, "Hey, I understood that reference." And there's been so many different adaptations. I mean, Michael Jackson did a version called The Wiz, which is a musical version of Oz, with a lot of
that
sounds actors
wrong.
And actresses. It actually wasn't too
Wiz.
bad.
The Wiz.
The Wiz instead of The Wizard of Oz, and it was Michael Jackson and a few. It was mostly black R&B type.
Be right back. I gotta take the Wiz.
Right. But so Wizard of Oz, I think, is really part of our core culture now. It's been so ingrained in us. It's like some of the Disney princesses and stuff that we grew up with. Not these newer ones that are coming out like Mulan and stuff, but more like, Cinderella and Little Mermaid and things that have been in our cultural storytelling history for a long time.
90s, right?
Yeah, but The Wizard of Oz has been around for ages and ages.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first movies that went and took advantage of the full colorization of movies when it come out. But at the beginning of the movie is all in black and white, and then as soon as you're in Oz, suddenly it's all in color, and it's in such
Very,
vibrant
very.
color.
Yeah, that's the word I was going to
Color.
use. It's a very vibrant colors.
Yeah, and the storytelling was great, and there was a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that you learn about later on. Like they had to change the actor who played the Tin Man because he was allergic to the face paint, and things of that nature. But it was probably one of the most well-known movies to ever hit screen. It's up there with Gone with the Wind and stories of that nature. Casablanca, The Godfather. Really big productions that everybody's at least heard of. Most people have seen at least some version of The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Or read the book. There not as many have read the book now as there were before because reading is becoming
I've purchased
less and
the
less.
book, but I haven't read it yet.
And
it was an impulse buy.
Reading is also becoming less and less important in our culture to a lot of people. Although a lot of us in the nerd community, we read quite a bit, but there's so much stuff out there.
I was going to say, I could be mistaken, but if I remember right, the last I checked, more people read more today than ever in human history.
I don't know. I mean, because literacy is down over in the U.S. Because of things like Common Core and stuff, and No Child Left Behind, making it to where they're not expecting things. But also, a lot of people are very much into the media of stuff. They want to watch it on TV or in a movie instead of reading the book version. But there are enough casual readers out there that who knows? There's also a bigger population than there was a long time ago, which means there could be more readers without the percentages necessarily changing much. Who knows? All I know is I've met a lot of people that don't pick up or read books, but then there's a lot of people in my particular circle, like you and Greg and stuff, that are nerds, and we live and breathe reading. We love reading and writing. A lot of my friends are not just readers, we're writers, and writers have to read. If you don't read other people's books, how do you expect to break into the
you reading,
market?
Fo?
Oh yeah. What you
ever tell you that story? When I was a teenager, and my brother and I was visiting some relatives for Christmas or whatever, and like there's a whole bunch of family at my uncle's house, and there's a point where most of them was watching Two and a Half Men, like DVDs. The other kids were mostly like playing out in the dirt. And my brother and I were inside, and we found a relatively quiet spot and was reading books.
Right. What you reading for?
And the other kids, so our age-ish range kids, came to us and asked us that exact wording, "What you reading for?" And my brother, I wasn't sure how to respond, but my brother lowers his book and he goes, "Well, for one, not to talk like that."
That was my first thought. That was my first thought. I would have been like, well, first of all, so I wouldn't say phrases like, "What you reading, fo?" but secondly, because there's a whole world of adventure in this book that you never realized.
Yeah.
I love books. Books are like a religion to me. Other people worship gods. I worship authors. I love books. Books are, to me, one of the most important things in the world. And I don't care if it's a book, a comic book, or a graphic novel. I want to read it all. And that's just it. And I think you guys both agree with me on that. Books are one of the little-known treasures of the world.
Yeah. So what do we have? We got a Wizard of Oz settings and monsters.
Settings,
for
monsters,
5th edition D&D.
Campaign setting. New classes, new player races, player race munchkins, gillykins, quadlings, Winkies, constructs like the scarecrow, winged monkeys, rose folk, and gnomes with no G. So the Wizard of Oz version of the gnomes.
Is that
Uh,
is that how they spell gnomes in the Wizard of Oz books? Is with no G?
I'm pretty sure there's a G in the version in the books, but here I think they did it specifically to differentiate these gnomes. Because I could have swore that the G comes from the original Wizard of Oz. And then there's the Monsters and People of Oz Beast and Beans book with new monsters and your favorites as NPCs. And then there's the Oz Pantheon, so you've got like basically the higher powers or gods of Oz and
Wow.
everything. New monsters include, Aguas, Balloonfish, Blueskins, Blue Wolves, Bumpy Folk, Bunny Burians, Busco Beasts, Camilla
Quins.
uh,
Camilla Quins.
Cherubim, yeah, Camilla Quinny.
Are they like Harlequins that change color?
I'm not sure. Some of these I don't remember from the books, but
Goblin Muggers.
Goozle Goblins, Hammerheads.
These are just fun to say out loud.
They are.
That
was always.
This sounds like somebody. This sounds like somebody wrote a sequel to Jabberwocky.
Right? Yeah. I was getting some strong. I was going to say this feels like an Alice in Wonderland book, but I was like,
that's just it.
I mean,
Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz, those two book franchises were really big about those gibberishy sounding words that were just fun. And they did that because it brought in younger readers and stuff. And you can see, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And all new NPCs, dozens of plug-and-play heroes, Dorothy, Toto, Scarecrow, Cowardly Lion, Woodsman.
I also heard, I don't know this for a fact, but I heard that Lewis Carroll wrote Jabberwocky as a dig at uptight British poetry critics who believe that the only way a poem can be good is if it fits a certain structure, proper English poetry structure
and everything.
Yeah, and he wrote a poem that was complete and utter nonsense, full of made-up words, to prove that you could write a poem that was correct but not necessarily good.
They've got a downloadable open playtest. Start now for free. A beginner module you can download now. It's the centennial year of the death of Lyman Frank Baum, one of the most prolific American fantasy authors and the creator of the wonderful world of Oz. So that means that it was 100 years ago last year that he died.
He passed away. Oh.
Yep.
The big year for Centennials. A few weeks ago, we had the Dante's Inferno review, and now we've got Wizard of Oz.
And then, of course, we want to look at the pledging levels here. If you pledge $20, you can get their Wizard of Oz themed deck of many things that they did on a previous Kickstarter, which you should get by March of next year. They've got a very limited number left, 195, I think, left out of 200. $45, you can get a PDF copy of the books. And $49, so only $4 more, and get a hardcover campaign setting. Plus the PDF of the campaign setting. So you don't get a hardcover of the monster book at that pledge level, but still. Or $49, you can just get the hardcover of just the Beast book and the PDF if you want. Or for $89, you can get both books in hardcover and PDF. So they're not bad pledge levels. Collector of Oz, you get the deck of many things, the hardcover of both books, PDF of both books, and all unlocked stretch goals that's like $109. Really, these are very reasonable pledges.
The pledge level for the hardcover is not too bad. What did you say? $45 for the PDF?
$45 for the PDF, but that's PDF
That's
of both books.
okay. Okay, for both books, that's not too bad.
Yeah, you get both the campaign setting and the Beast book. Then for $49, you get the hardcover of just one or the other, but also the PDF of the same one. So you get the hardcover and the PDF of the same book for $49. Or for $89, you can get the hardcover and PDF of both books. So really, they're very reasonable pledge levels. I mean, I've already done my pledge for this year, and I only pledge one thing per
Oh, look at those deck
year.
of cards.
Yeah,
the
this
Oz
is
deck of many things.
Yeah, this is if you just do the $20 pledge. This is what you get: is the deck of many things with the Wizard of Oz theme.
I collect themed playing cards like that. I only have about 15 different sets of themed cards. So it's not a very big collection, but yeah, I've got like Wolverine, I've got Thor, I've got Lord of the Rings. Wizard of Oz set would be really cool.
That reminds me, do either of you collect or peruse tarot decks?
Allison loves tarot decks.
There's a Kickstarter. There's a Kickstarter that has 6 days to go. I guess this could be my spiritual second segment called the Literary Tarot. Each card is being illustrated by a different modern pop culture author, and they have a list on the Kickstarter of who's doing what. Like Margaret Atwood of The Handmaid's Tale fame is pairing Jane Eyre with the Queen of Light. They changed this.
Hold on, Allison, don't have her ears on. The Literary Tarot deck, it's in Kickstarter. It's only got like 6 days left, where they're doing like modern pop culture artists, different artists doing different cards on the deck. And like Margaret Atwood, who did Handmaid's Tale, is doing one of the cards with what was the character's name?
Each individual author is pairing a classic book with a card, and they've changed the names of the suits, but otherwise it's a full tarot deck. Margaret Atwood is pairing Jane Eyre, which I love, with the Queen of Light.
You're gonna have to send me a link on that one, because Allison wants that link, because she loves tarot. I keep promising to make her a hand-painted tarot deck. I just haven't done it yet, because I was going to paint one for her. With my, specialty in drawing dragons and cartoony stuff.
You pop that in there.
Okay,
I recognized another Patrick Rothfuss is in here somewhere. I remember
Patrick Rothfuss. Nice.
He's
a big D&D player too.
Yeah, Mark Miller is pairing Sherlock Holmes with the Ace of Quills.
Mark Miller's doing Sherlock Holmes with the Ace of Quills. Nice.
Patrick Rothfuss is pairing Don Quixote with the Fool. I bet that'll be good.
Patrick Rothfuss is doing Don Quixote as the Fool card.
If you didn't finish that sentence, I bet Allison could have guessed it was the Fool card.
She's like, that makes sense.
Simon Tolkien is pairing Treasure Island with the Chariot. Yeah, there's a whole list. They don't have all of the cards listed and their respective books and authors, but they've got a bunch of them, enough to easily whet your appetite. And I think it's $50 for a printed set, which, considering the talent that's on deck, is not bad.
No, that's not $50 for a printed set, considering who's doing it.
Considering I spent $40 on a David Bowie themed tarot deck.
I mean, $50 for a set of tarot, period, if it's a good quality set, is nothing. I mean, I've seen the preview illustrations they've got look really good for a good tarot set. I've seen $100 or more being down for a good tarot set.
Tarot cards are expensive.
They can be very expensive. Well, I downloaded this playtest for this. So if nothing else, at least one of us has the playtest. Looks like they've met all their stretch goals so far. because they're over double their asking of 40,000 for. I'm talking about the Wizard of Oz. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we'll go ahead and end that here because we still have. It's 10 o'clock now. We haven't even done our media yet. But we're probably
Yeah.
going to say goodbye to Greg at this time because he usually doesn't
Yeah, I'm
stay
gonna have
for
to
this
pop
part.
off.
You can catch Greg over at Queen City Cardboard. He's usually there tomorrow from like 10 to noonish, 1 o'clock
10,
or
10 to
so,
1 o'clock.
playing story games. Often
Story games, and games with tabletop gaming elements. Like right now, I'm playing SteamWorld Quest: The Hand of Gilgamesh, which is an adventure game with deck building themes. That's really good so far.
with deck building
I'm also
themes.
in the process. Yeah, I'm also in the process of developing a Queen City Cardboard Discord channel, and hopefully I can get some people on there, build some hype, and maybe get some online actual tabletop or role playing games going. We'll see what happens.
Eventually, I would like to get us to do an online D&D session or a session of masks or something on my channel here, and I wouldn't mind like you and Greg and you and Lurch and Allison and maybe Patrick coming into play.
Yeah,
But
I'd like to play at least like a one shot little campaign for a few hours of this Wizard of Oz business because
maybe if I look over the little playtest thing, I might run that as a one shot.
okay,
So let me
nice.
see what's involved.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, I'd love to play masks because any superhero game, I never get to play superhero role playing games anymore, and they are one of my favorite genres. But there's not a lot of people who can DM for them right. And so, if Greg wants to run masks sometime, I've missed every other chance I've had to play. I'd love to play masks because I like superheroes.
I could run masks. I could run masks. I also just got the almost final PDF. It's basically in proofreading mode right before it goes to print of Nahual, which is basically street level Mexican superheroes that can channel the powers of their native South American ancestors to take on animal aspects and gain superpowers that way. Possibly.
Because the Luchadores all thought they could channel the animals. It's part of the reason they wear the luchador masks.
Yeah, masks come into play. They also, it's based loosely on a Mexican graphic novel series called Operation Bolivar, where super powered where super powered native Mexicans fight angels that are the descendants of angels that invaded South America when the conquistadors came.
I'll tell you, my first priority in Mask games would be Mask, because ever since you first showed me that, I've been wanting to play it. But then afterwards, I'd be willing to play the other game too. Don't ask me to pronounce it.
Let me know, because
and Philip loves superheroes too, so.
Yeah, and I played Mask with Greg once. It was a good time.
And Allison played once. I just haven't had a chance. So that's something I wouldn't mind playing. And broadcasting.
We've all played
through my Discord.
We all played something without you, Greg.
We'll find a way to make it happen.
We will have to. And then we're also going to talk some other stuff later, but that doesn't need to be done on air. But you can catch him at Queen City Cardboards here on Twitch. He's also Queen City Cardboard. Like he said, he's working on doing a Discord. It only takes a few seconds, really, to start a Discord. He's on Facebook. You can also see him the third Wednesday of every month at Holdfast Brewing Company, where he does the board game night there, and they also do the puzzle contest there. Hey, what's up, EC Legacy? Coming in just as we're ending. But we haven't done our media set yet, so we're going to go over a little bit, but we are saying goodbye to one of our co-hosts. So we'll talk to you later, Greg.
See you around.
Yeah, may all your rolls be 20 and all your fumbles be epic.
Cheers.
See you, Greg.
See ya.
Hydrate. Okay.
I done all the hydrating I could. I ran out of hydration stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I'm keeping those up because I want to look more into them later. So now we're going to the CW verse. We got a lot to do, and we got, like I said, we're already technically at the end of our show, so we're going over to do this. But we kind of expected that after not having a show last week.
Yeah.
First
I don't
off,
know if we need to go over every detail of all the episodes like we sometimes do.
We can synopsis it a little bit.
Yeah.
Legend of Tomorrow, really quick. They basically it was a 2-part single long episode, really, where it was a big part of it was Sarah fighting the guy that created the clones of Ava originally, and he ended up cloning Sarah, mixing her DNA with that of an alien. Speaking of which, just because we hadn't said it yet, spoilers are going to be all through this, so you've been warned.
Yeah, we've now reached the
We've
spoiler
reached the
zone.
spoiler part of the show. Yes. But basically,
spoiler level?
spoiler level, critical. Anyway, so it's a big part of it is Sarah fighting this guy and fighting with the Ava clones. We've got Mick Rory seducing the female alien that's basically the fiance of
Gary. Yeah, Gary's fiance.
Couldn't think of Gary's name for a second. Of Gary, but Mick Rory, when she's in her human form, she's hot, and Mick's not picky. So he kind of seduces her, and they get kind of a bond, and he has her take him to go rescue Sarah. The rest of
kind of cutting out on the video here. My video is cutting me off a bit. It's got like my nose at the bottom of the screen. Or the bottom of my window.
That's right. I've got to switch it to commentator. And let's see here.
Like, I don't know if my forehead is beautiful enough to be my whole box.
There we go. I hadn't switched this over. Thanks.
Yeah, there.
And while they're doing that, over with the regular legends, of course, we talked about the part where he gave up his magic. The next big thing is they go back in time to try to prevent Sarah from being kidnapped in the first place and getting her to go ahead and propose to Ava and stuff because they'd heard that Sarah was dead.
Yeah, the week before last week they got the news that Sarah was dead because they finally found the alien that had abducted them and all, and that she's like, "Oh, I killed her," or no, they found Amelia Earhart, the alien Amelia Earhart, in psych ward, and she told him that she's like, "Oh yeah, I killed Sarah Lance 2 weeks ago."
Right. And there was like Ava was a basket case. She was just sitting watching the video of how Sarah was telling David Bowie that she was going to propose, and she just had it on permanent loop and wouldn't leave her room.
You watched it on loop so many times that the video broke, which is weird that on a time ship, their video file can get corrupted from watching it too many times.
Well, I think it also broke because of the fact that some things changed. But anyway, Rory went to go save Sarah his way because Rory's not one to sit on his laurels. He goes and does stuff. And A-Rod wants to go save Sarah before she gets abducted. And he thinks the rest of the team are going to try to stop him, and the rest of the team are all on board. So no, we can do this. And
except for Ava, Ava doesn't know.
Ava doesn't know because she won't leave her damn room. which is okay because
Yeah.
they want to surprise her later. And then they get partway through, and then they realize they can't fully change the time stream because then they would lose what's her name with the aliens talking in her head, and
Yeah.
some of the other things would have changed. So they had to alter their plan just a little bit. But then Sarah still gets abducted and everything. Anyway, we go back to the other planet. We find that Sarah has been cloned because the guy saved Sarah's DNA sequence, and she blended the clone with the alien DNA. So now she pretty much almost instantly heals. But Sarah
Yeah, he
thinks of
gave
herself.
her regeneration powers.
Yeah, Sarah thinks of herself as a monster, and Rory has to look and say, "No, I see Sarah Lance, the person who, no matter what, always gets things done, who's herself no matter what." And so because they killed the guy, and before he could come back as clone, he gets uploaded to the cloud, or he's uploading to the cloud server, and he was basically going to make it to where he could reprint a new copy of himself from anywhere, and he basically would have been immortal. And it was Sarah. Sarah was trying to get a new clone made of herself without the alien DNA because she thought she was a monster.
Yeah, the cloning is so common for this lab that it's basically printing a person.
Yeah, it's a 3D printer, man. It's just a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And they were 3D printing Sarah, and this guy's uploading his consciousness, and you've got the two tracks looking, and it looks like he's going to have his consciousness uploaded before Sarah's done printing, which means that he's going to become basically immortal and unstoppable. Plus, Rory was already told that the ship was leaving as soon as the freaking moon's set or whatever. So he had to get back to the ship. They were already kind of running late as it is. So Rory convinces Sarah that she's still Sarah, even with the alien DNA, and Ava will still love her, and she can still be herself. So they go ahead and blow all the generators. So they stop the upload of the guy. They stop the printing of the new Sarah, and they go running for the ship. The Avas volunteer to stay on the planet. These other aliens attack, and they blast off. But the Avas are staying on the planet because, hey, we've got expert chefs and masseuses and engineers and bioscientists and everything. I think we can make a go of it. Because he specialized trained every one of his Ava clones to do different jobs. If you wanted a gourmet meal, he called Ava chef. If you wanted an assistant with his biological experiments, he got Ava the nurse. So he had all these specialized Ava clones. So they should have no problem building a society of Avas.
For as long as their lifespans can hold out anyway.
Right. And all they have to do is bring in some other kind of biological matter to mate with, and then they could just keep their culture going. So you never know. Anyway, they blast off and they leave, and finally Sarah gets reunited with Ava and proposes. Except every time Sarah starts to propose, Ava says yes. This is not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
because she has a whole little thing prepared. She has a whole little speech prepared.
But Ava's just like, I want to say yes. Can I say yes yet? How about now? Can I say yes?
like Sarah takes a knee. Yes. Not yet. She pulls out a little note. Starts reading something.
Puppy dog.
Yes. Still not yet. Hang on. Then she gets out the.
Then she finally gets it out and says, "Okay, here's where you say yes." Oh, yes, yes. She's anxious as a little puppy dog. I swear. She wants to say yes so bad it ain't even funny.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're probably heading to is the actual wedding between Ava and Sarah. But anyway, that's Legends. We quickly went through that synopsis.
They basically kind of they effectively tied up the main story arc that started the season with the whole deal. So I figure we're going to be.
No idea where they're going next.
My guess is a lot of what they're doing next is John Constantine working on getting his magic back.
Well, yeah, that's going to be a subplot anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, but what the main thing is, I don't know.
They haven't really said yet. Now, next is the Flash. We had 2 main episodes go over there. The first one was the fact that what's her name, Joe's wife, Cecile, found out she's stuck in her own mind, locked there by another consciousness, and Barry ends up getting locked there with her. And Barry helps talk her through the fact that she's more powerful and she can get them out by just her force of playing through and allowing herself to be herself. And the standard shtick in the Flash group is that as long as you allow yourself to be yourself, you can overcome anything. So and so they end up breaking out and winning the day. Joe
get over the fear of being judged for having seen go into a psych ward as a teenager,
right?
Or something.
So
and
we find
that was how they won.
We find Cecile had been in an asylum and stuff like that. And Joe, of course, is also investigating the chick that took over the CPD and basically took his job. He kind of starts the investigation in that episode. And in this episode, it actually culminates with him kind of making a handshake agreement with this lady to help her find her quote-unquote brother, because they're not brother and sister by blood, but by cultural upbringing, because they were the 2 Native American kids in the culture they grew up with, so they bonded together as like brother and sister. But he was the one that supposedly betrayed her company that she lost to a man, and she was the only survivor of. And so she's been hunting him down, and Joe has now agreed to help her find him. But Joe had to dig and stuff to find out that she had actually met with him and all that, and determined that she wasn't part of the conspiracy that got them all killed in the first place. But that was that. The other main thing that was going on is Barry and Iris go on a vacation to an island because
for the second episode that they go on a vacation
because Chuck had caught them kind of doing their wedding bliss thing in the storeroom and said, why don't you guys like speed over to like Aruba or something, man, or Costa Rica and do this instead of the storeroom. And so they were like, hey, it was kind of Chuck's idea. You remember? He says, yeah, I'm trying to forget. But anyway, so they go incommunicado on this little island. And while they're at this, Allegra's cousin is back in town. And so she's hunting her cousin, who's basically a professional hit girl assassin. And they end up reforming her because, as they say, go with your heart. That's always the theme of the Flash episodes, is go with your heart, be yourself. You can do it. And, Chuck ends up with a broken arm. But she ends
this
up
season, you think about it, this season has very, very heavily been about reforming the bad guys by convincing them they have a heart, basically. And that we're family or whatever.
Well, because at the end of the episode, Frost confronts one of the guys that she thought escaped from the prison, and that she was going to have to put him back in, and then he showed her that he'd been pardoned too, because he cut a deal, just like her. So they're both pardoned now, which kind of meant they both had technically been reformed. Although, of course, Frost has done more longer to prove she's a good guy. This guy hasn't done anything tangible yet.
Yeah, and they were flirty before.
He still has his thing for Frost, yeah.
Oh, she still has a thing for him, too. So,
Now
I
she's
could
a little
tell
bit
the
more
last time he
free.
appeared, the
Yeah.
last time that we saw him, I was like, oh, he's going to come back and get reformed in some way. It's going to be some drama
And
there
now
about
that
him
he's
reforming, and they're
reformed,
going to end up.
she'll feel free to actually possibly pursue any attraction she has.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
okay,
And so,
so that's the Flash. See, we quickly went through the Flash. Now we get the big one. And the big one is Superman and Lois.
and then
Okay.
there's Loki after that, but we'll get to
But the
that
big one in the
later.
CW verse.
CW verse, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
big
Superman
one
and
in
Lois.
CW versus Superman
Last
Lois.
week we had the big showdown between Morgan Edge, and the Smallvilleites, mainly Lois and Clark / Superman, the boys, and Lana and her
Yeah,
family, and they end up putting they capture the device that Morgan Edge uses to put the Kryptonian consciousnesses into residents of Smallville. They end
yep.
up using the device to put her consciousness, the
Did you
consciousness
do you
of
remember?
his mom. Did I
Okay,
remember what?
before you get on too far, the machine that they're using. Do you remember what the machine is called?
The Abominator?
The Eradicator.
Eradicator, that's it.
And the reason why that is important is because that is an actual comic book character that is a physical humanoid form that looks like Clark in the comics that has basically the same powers as what the machine is doing in the show. He
Right.
like stores information of people in his mind, like something along those lines. But he's an actual comic book character that, if I remember right, he first showed up after Superman was believed to be dead. After the death of Superman, he
Okay.
came in as one of the replacement Supermans. I just want to throw that out there real quick about its reference to its connection to the comic books.
And I don't know if we mentioned this before because it's been a couple weeks, but we did find out that Morgan Edge was Superman's half brother at the
Yep.
very end of the episode, like 2 weeks ago. So he wanted Clark to join him voluntarily because of family. At the time, he doesn't know that Clark has a family on Earth. We're getting to that. But anyway, they find out that his mom's consciousness is one of the ones that he's got stored. And Lana volunteers to be the host for that consciousness because the device gets broken and they need to fix it in order to release the consciousness of everybody so that they're back to normal.
I don't. It's not that it's broken. It's that the device, as it is, only can do one person at a time, and they need to modify it to make it affect a bunch of
Yeah,
people
something like.
simultaneously.
But the only person who truly understood the technology was Clark's mom because she originally developed it back before
Yeah,
she got with her second husband, Clark's father,
yeah,
Jor-El.
yeah.
Uh,
So
but because her first husband was an arranged marriage, and then Jor-El was a marriage of love.
yeah,
Because when she first met Jor-El, she was head over heels in love with him. And so she ended up like ending her arranged marriage in order to go with Jor-El, which of course pissed off the arranged marriage guy. But the other thing was he was thinking that they, as Kryptonians, should lord over the rest of the universe instead of,
yeah,
bowing down to the inferior races.
yeah.
Current
Morgan
the standard
between
megalomania track.
yeah.
And
What
Morgan
a
Edge,
typical Kryptonian thinks when they show up on Earth.
yeah, very much a General Zod kind of attitude. Uh, and then, so they put her in Lana, and she helps tell them that, yeah, it's going to take a massive amount of energy in order to get it to do this. And then Clark gets the idea that he's going to just release all the energy he has got stored himself into it. He actually cheats, though, because he doesn't just release his own energy, but he gets all these other Kryptonians shooting their laser heat vision at him, and he uses basically the Eradicator as it's to catch all of the rays too, so it absorbs that energy too, and it
Yeah.
explodes and releases everybody. And then Clark kind of falls unconscious because he used up all his energy pretty much. But Morgan
Yeah.
Edge's plan is ruined, and now Morgan Edge and his assistant are the only ones left because his assistant, for some reason, did not get released, or maybe because she's actually voluntarily there. Who knows?
I think it's a lot because they said something that they mentioned is that it's hard to gauge exactly how long it takes to become permanent, but there is a certain level, like after so many weeks, it'll
It's a
become a
permanent,
permanent transition that's
and
irreversible.
she was she was the first that worked. She's probably the
Yeah,
one that it's irreversible to. Yeah, and
yeah,
we'll probably find that out for sure. Anyway, that kind of finishes up the first week. Now this week's episode starts off, and you are a little confused. You're thinking, "Oh my God, now they're suddenly going to do an origin episode," because we start
yeah,
seeing the origin of Superman, but as we're going through the origin of Superman, every once in a while he looks over and he sees this little flickering image, and he figures out when he's there with uh, Lois in the hospital, getting the ultrasound for the twins. They just found out they're having twins, and he realizes that this has all happened before. Now, a little bit earlier, he had woken up because he'd been dreaming about um, talking to his father Jor-El at the Fortress of Solitude, right after having gone on his honeymoon with Lois, and he said, and Jor-El's like, "Get out of there now!" And he woke up and he's like, "Huh? What's going on?" And
yeah,
everything. So that was a little precursor. But then we find out at the end of that montage that Morgan Edge had used a device to comb through Clark's memories in order to understand his half brother better, is what he says is his reason for it. And he realizes, Clark's got a human family. That's why he's so sympathetic to these human piss ants, is what he would think of them.
yeah,
Well, I'm so disappointed in you, brother. You picking your human family over your real Kryptonian family. Your betrayal, it wounds me. And he basically gives Clark an ultimatum. He says, "Look, you join me, or I will expose you and and go after your boys and all that." Basically, threatening his family. And then they have a big scrap in the Fortress of Solitude, wrecking the place. Among other things, Morgan Edge crushes Jor-El's data crystal, so no more artificial intelligence advice from Daddy. But also, they break several of the pillars and stuff in the Fortress of Solitude, and then you see Morgan Edge leave Clark, Superman, unconscious and beat up in the fortress. While this is going on, Lois is over at Lana's house, and while the boys are talking to Lana's daughter, Lois is talking to Lana and her husband, and they're reconciling on things that happen, and finally, Lana's husband gives a real heartfelt apology to Lois for having, tried to claim that she was just rabble rousing and stuff, and he had so misrepresented her and everything, and he apologized, and Lois took the apology as graciously as Lois can, which, Lois is pretty gracious sometimes. Other times
yeah,
she's pissy as hell, but sometimes she can be real gracious.
yeah.
And she took it real graciously. And the
He was kind
boys,
of, I mean, he was being a dick
he
until now.
was, but he was a man enough to apologize, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
And then the boys, they talk about, the lies and stuff between the parents and the kids and stuff. And yeah, sometimes the parents have to lie to us. And, it's just as bad. Sometimes we lie to them and stuff. So they feel the same thing. And so then she's thanking the boys for being honest with her finally, which is actually making them feel about 6 inches tall because they realize they're still not telling her that their dad is Superman or that Jordan is half Kryptonian with powers.
Yeah.
But anyway, she asks Jonathan to give them some privacy before they're done, and they upgrade their relationship status. Basically, they both changed their Facebook feeds to say in a relationship because they're both in a relationship now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They had her kiss.
they had the big kiss moment, and Lois is like, "Okay, we're gonna have to have a talk."
Yeah. Lois is like, now that you got a girlfriend, we're gonna have to have a chat.
And then Jordan's like rolling his eyes. Oh, great. Can I go back to being in a hospital or unconscious or something? You could see it in his eyes. So they get back to the farm, and then they hear this sonic boom. It's like, oh, sounds like Dad's home. But who lands in front of them? It's not Dad. It's Morgan Edge. He says, nope, it's Uncle Morgan. And he's basically like threatening them. And of course, Lois don't back down to nobody. No time, no way. Galactus could land on the planet and Lois would stand up to his ass. She don't care, and that's even crossing frickin' worlds.
You're not taking my planet.
That's it. Lois would be like, I'll fight you if I have to. And the boys are like totally backing up Mom, and he's
Jordan
like,
tries to heat vision him.
Yeah, and Morgan gets ready to heat blast them all. Well, first Jordan tries to heat vision Morgan, and Morgan like basically slaps him down and says, "Yeah, boy, look, you've just got your powers and you're a weak version. I've had years of practice with my powers, and I'm strong enough to beat your daddy. I can beat you no problem." Kind of slap down kind of thing. But then Morgan gets ready to use his own heat vision to destroy Lois and the boys, and Clark shows up. And with the threat, Clark has to give in because he's not going to risk Lois and the boys. If there's one thing Clark will not risk.
Clark is still too damaged from the explosion and using up his energy on that explosion to stop the other Kryptonians.
Yeah, he can't get into he doesn't have the energy to get into a fight right now. And he can't risk Lois, Jonathan, and Jordan. He won't risk because that's Clark. Clark doesn't.
He's kind of struggling to stand on his feet at this stage.
So when Jordan Morgan Edge tells him to submit, he submits. And Lois is telling Clark don't, and the boys are telling Dad don't. But he does it anyway because he has to save them. And so because of that, Morgan leaves with Clark. And at some point, Morgan had said he had, left Clark at the Fortress of Solitude. Such a cold place. Yeah. I don't know why he set his place there. Me, I set mine up in the desert because I like to feel the sun on my face.
Yeah.
And then he flies Clark to his Fortress of Solitude, and we have a quick little flashback of young Morgan Edge creating his Fortress of Solitude. And then Lois calls John Henry Irons and says, John, you're right. Clark's turned. Basically.
Whoa, Superman.
Yeah, Superman. She didn't say Clark because he doesn't know about Clark.
Yeah.
But it's like Superman has gone over the dark side. Not giving him the details behind why he did it, but basically said, John, activate your contingency plans because we're going to need you.
Yeah.
At first, when she was making her phone call, I thought she was calling her dad to bring in
Me
his
too.
contingency plans. But no, he called John. Because the first thing she said was John. I was like, yeah, that's probably the better first person to call since he lived through it and has better weapons than the task force does. Really.
Yeah, he's probably better prepared.
He's better prepared. And that's kind of where we left off. So a lot's happening in Superman and Lois, and I'm really looking forward to the next few episodes because it's going to be a Kryptonian Palooza here with Clark. Clark's eventually coming back to the side of Angels because he's Clark. You know he will. But
I gotta say, during that the early part of this episode, where it was doing the origin story, it was doing a quickened version of the origin story. I was genuinely enjoying the way they were telling that story. Like they were doing a good job of it.
I was enjoying it, but I was a little disappointed to the fact that they were doing it because I thought one of the things they were going to try to shy away from in this particular Superman and Lois story was the origin story because like the Batman origin story and the Spider-Man origin story, people are getting tired of getting a rehash of the origin story all the time. But the way it
was fun watching them catch the green car.
And the way they did it was not only great, but they went further in the origin all the way up to the birth of the twins. So they brought them all the way to the point. And unlike in a lot of the stories where Clark was in love with Lois and, if not had told her, here Lois openly admits to a friend that she's in love with Clark.
In front of Superman.
In front of Superman and his super hearing that she forgot all about. But in all other versions of the story that I've ever seen, Lois was in love with Superman and Clark was her co-worker. And it took Clark really working at it to develop the love with Lois from the Clark side of things, because Lois was always enamored of Superman. And in this case, they took a different tact, and they said Lois was in love with Clark, which is why she wasn't interested in Superman, which I thought showed a lot of character for Lois, really.
Mm-hmm. I liked how they handled that, too.
Yeah, that was a nice handling and a nice change of pace from all the previous versions that I had seen, like the Margot Kidder version with Christopher Reeves, where she always just thought of Clark as like her kind of little bit clumsy co-reporter that's always kind of there, but she always was enamored of Superman because he's Superman. Here, she was almost more disdainful of Superman. She's like, yeah, Superman's great and all, but there's so many more systemic problems in the city that Superman's not addressing. Like there's this guy that's totally attacking ethnic groups and doing hate crimes. And she ends up drawing attention to that. And of course, Clark ends up helping stop the guy in the end, but so does Lois. She still tasers the guy's ass when Clark distracts him.
Superman distracts him.
Well, I always call him Clark even when he's in his Superman because he's still Clark to me. I know you try to differentiate, but anyway, we're going to get off Superman and Lois because we're already like 30 minutes over and we haven't even touched on Loki. And we actually have three episodes of Loki to go over because the first week of Loki was the very first day it had showed, so we didn't do any spoilers. And there was one big spoiler at the end that we're now going to reveal and then go from there. And that big spoiler was rumored all through the internet as the big theory. But the variant that they're hunting that's killing off all of the time variant agents is another Loki. That was the big spoiler they revealed at the very end of the first episode. So the reason that Owen Wilson, Morbius,
Mobius, no R.
Mobius. I know. I keep wanting to get those two mixed up.
Yeah,
Mobius.
it's easy to do. I've made that mistake myself a couple times, and I catch myself and was like, damn it.
So Mobius has recruited Loki because he figures what better way to catch or foil a Loki than with another Loki. So you know the mindset. Just keep an eye on him because you know he's also always going to betray you because he's a Loki.
Yeah.
Well, in the second episode, Loki gets this theory that, you know, the one place that the Time Variant Bureau is not really looking is these time events called Armageddon events, where nobody survives, so anything that happened there would not change any timelines. So it's basically blind spots in the records of the Time Bureau. And so Loki's like, well, my kind of thinking is this is where I'd hide. So where's a good place to hide from these things? And they end up tracking the other Loki down in one of these time Armageddon loops, these Armageddon points of time.
Something I love about it is because they use the volcano destruction of Pompeii
as
to test the theory,
right?
To test Loki's theory, and then after it was proven, Owen Wilson's character Mobius, which by the way is his first and last name, Mobius, right. M. Mobius. He goes to his boss and tries to get permission to follow this up, and I like how she's like, I don't trust him. He's like, yeah, but he's useful. In just 2 days, he's already found a vulnerability in our security. She's like, that's my point. That's why I don't want him around.
Yeah, the last person you want to find vulnerabilities in your security is a Loki, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's his specialty. He can always find an angle. But anyway, they go to confront the Loki, and that Loki is using basically puppeteer magic to control other people because she kidnaps one of the Bureau's agents, and you see her kind of compete with the mind of that Bureau agent, trying to learn the location of the golden elevator that takes you to the 3 time beings that run the timekeepers. And basically the Gallifreyans, the people that keep time.
Yeah.
And or the great space lizards, as Loki likes to call them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
space lizards control time.
But yeah, then Loki, since he's being ignored and stuff, he ends up, when they go on site, the one African American squad leader insists that Loki goes with her instead of Mobius because she wants to keep an eye on him, and she thinks he has an undue influence on Mobius. So let Mobius go one way and them go the other while they're searching this store where they think that she might be hiding out. Well, they don't know at the time. Of course, we had seen in Loki's file that his gender was listed as fluid. And that becomes important because the version of Loki we end up finding is identified as female. And later on, we even find out that she doesn't even go by the name Loki. She hates being called a Loki, and she goes by the name Sylvie. So we have Loki and Sylvie, but they're basically the same stellar consciousness.
Yeah, she's a Loki of an alternate timeline.
She's a different variant. And she's an old variant because she was never even adopted by the Asgardians. So it's a major variation for her on the timeline.
She was adopted.
But not by the Asgardians.
No.
Because she didn't know. Because she was asking what was it like to have a mother and father.
Right.
And stuff. She didn't know anything about that she taught herself magic. You missed
Yeah.
those parts, didn't you?
No.
Or kind of
I'm
blinked.
trying to think it up. I'm trying to think because she definitely was adopted, but she did not grow up learning magic being taught to her.
She taught
By
magic herself.
so her mom was different. Even if it's the same person, the variance was a different. Yeah, because she doesn't say much about herself. Like she's kind of tight-lipped about
No,
herself,
Loki
but
keeps
she
trying
gives
to
out a
get her to
little bit.
reveal stuff, but she doesn't really give a
Yeah,
lot.
and
But
so
anyway,
she does say that she knew from the beginning that she was adopted. But that
which
no one taught her magic.
where Loki didn't know he was adopted, but
Yeah,
his adoptive mom did teach him magic.
yeah,
So that was two major differences between the two characters.
yeah.
And
So
she
Sylvie didn't. I don't think Sylvie gave away who her parents were, whether they
no,
were
she didn't.
Odin and Freya or not. She
We
just
knew
said that.
we knew for a fact they were not Odin and Freya because she basically said she didn't know who they were really. Um, but that she never named who her parents actually were. We know she was
Yeah,
not raised by the giants that was actually the birth parents of Loki. So we know that
yeah,
she was adopted, but in this case, she was not adopted by the Asgardian couple. Um, and the couple that did adopt her were not as loving as Odin and Freya.
well, that's Freya.
Well,
Odin
even
wasn't
Odin,
especially
even
loving.
Odin was a loving father. He just expected his kids to, do him proud and stuff. He was a warrior
Yeah,
version of a loving father.
yeah,
He was like proud of his son, just like nowadays they'd be proud if their son was the head quarterback or
yeah,
the head forward of the basketball team or something. They want their kids to excel and succeed, and they
yeah,
show their love by supporting them in their sporting events and encouraging them in drinking contests and stuff like that. And that's totally Odin. That's how he
yeah,
expresses his love. Where Freya is much more hands-on, coddle the child, be loving, affectionate, hugging and kissing and stuff like that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We
yeah.
find out that Loki and she goes to get away at the end of the first episode from the end of the second episode, which was last week. She goes to get away through a time door that she's opened, and Mobius, I keep calling him Mobius calls to tell Loki to stop, and Loki jumps through the door after her.
Yep.
And that pretty much ends that episode. Then we
That
get
ends
to
the second episode.
right.
Yeah.
Then this week's episode, we find that they've showed up at another locale, and this turns
Well,
out to be. Go ahead.
the TVA. Yeah, they portaled into the TVA
Yeah,
while all the troops of the TVA are transporting out because Sylvie left time bombs
right.
that she set off, those reset bombs, and
Mm.
she sent them all throughout history, all throughout the timeline, all these little reset bombs. So she is creating a whole bunch of branches for the timeline, driving it crazy. So
So,
the timekeepers, the Minutemen, are rushing all over the place, which is
and
now
she's
minimizing how many people are left at the actual TVA. And so now she's portaling
using
into
the
the TVA
chaos
to attack it itself.
to find the golden elevator,
Yep.
and she's going towards the golden elevator, and Loki ends up having to stop her from doing the golden elevator because, among other things, Loki don't believe her plan's going to succeed. Because if he thought her plan was going to succeed, he might have been just right there with her, but because he doesn't believe her plan's going to succeed, and even if it was going to succeed, it has to succeed with him, or he's not going to go for it.
Yeah.
Because Loki's a survivor. First and
Yeah.
foremost, Loki's a survivor. It's all about Loki. and they end up he ends up portaling them away from the TVA, and she gets pissed because she's like, "What? I had that was my one chance, but I was ready. They were all occupied, and I was almost there, and you stopped me. It wasn't going to work anyway." And then she finds out where he teleported them to, and it's another Armageddon area, of course, but it's a planet that's about to be have its moon basically ram into it.
Technically, it's actually a moon that they're on that's about to have a planet rammed into it.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Yeah.
A moon and a planet are going to collide, and all the people are going to die.
Yeah.
And they go to, get out, and they find that their little time travel gizmo is out of juice, which totally pisses Sylvie off. They're like, "Oh crap!" And then they go looking for an energy source. So a lot of part of this episode is them trying to find an energy source to charge the time portal device. But throughout the episode, Loki is trying to get her to reveal stuff about her past, and she's not really big on it. Where Loki is like revealing lots of great stuff about himself, and he's showing his hedonistic self. I mean, she wakes up on a train and sees him having a freaking Papa sing-along with everybody on the crew, and they were all enjoying it because Loki's a hedonist. He believes in party hardy. He was raised by Asgardians. Asgardians believed in party hardy.
Yeah.
It's just part of what he was. That's how he was groomed.
It was funny whenever she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "I'm hedonistic," and she's like, "Oh, I'm hedonistic too, even more than you are. But I don't get distracted when the mission's on the line."
So then you're not as hedonistic as Loki, obviously, because Loki will turn the hedonism into the mission.
Yeah.
But anyway, during all of this running around, they found that the residents of the moon, at least the rich and powerful residents, were going to try to use an arc to get off the moon. Now, Sylvie says that the arc never gets off. However, Loki's like, "Yeah, but they didn't have us on the arc to make sure." And the reason they are now deciding to use the arc is because Loki ends up like falling and sitting on the travel device and breaking it. So they can't do the time travel.
Yeah,
they can't open a time
They
door.
end up getting busted for sneaking onto the train to the arc, and so they get thrown off the train, and the machine gets busted when he gets tossed out.
So now they got to get back on the train because they're the only way that the train is going to survive in order to get off the planet.
Yep.
And
yep.
And we kind of are left hanging not shortly after that. We don't actually see them get off the planet or anything.
Well, they make it to, they find the arc, and they're trying to get to the arc, but a meteor shower hits and destroys the arc.
Right, and then at that point, they pretty much end the episode. So we have no idea where they're going here. Now, keep in mind, people, that this is only a 6-episode run. And this is episode 3 now. So we've only got 3 more episodes to go. We're already at the halfway point. Now, if they follow the same pattern that they did with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, next episode would normally be the one offshoot episode where they did more origin story stuff, or they did something lighthearted on a different part of it, like maybe focused in on Mobius or something. But with only 6 episodes in the series, I'm thinking at best they're only going to spend half the episode on that because they don't have much actual time left. To
also, there's a few other elements in there that's been interesting because, like, according to the propaganda, according to the TVA agents were all created by the the
TVA.
Time Lord, basically. What's her name
But
now?
yeah, I know
Anyway,
what you.
that they're
But
all created specifically for that job. But
according to
Sylvie
Sylvie,
is,
mm,
as she's describing how her enchantment power works, and she talked about how she enchanted that one TVA agent and how
that
she
she
was able to
kidnapped.
communicate with her by, visiting her in her past, in her previous life when she was before she was a TVA agent, she was a normal human that really liked margaritas and was always with her at this bar trying to get her to talk. And so then Loki was like, "What? That's not." He's like, "That's not how they said that the TVA agents say that they're all created as TVA agents, not that they had a past life." And she's
And
like,
she
"Well,
said,
that's
nope,
not true."
they're all
He's like, "Well,
variants.
that's what they believe."
He says, nope, they're all
Yeah, she's like, "They're
variants.
all variants."
Which gives another bit of ammo to
So
Loki's little propaganda satchel, because Loki will pull that out on Mobius later on when he gets back to
yeah.
Mobius. Hey, Kitty. Come here,
As
Kitty.
much as Mobius was talking about how he likes jet skis, I'm thinking that Mobius's original time period, his original life, he owned a jet ski and rode them or whatever, and that he's like pulling that from his past life,
Yep, and he's reading
but
that
doesn't
jet ski
remember it.
magazine, and he was saying that there's this one little perfect thing that was created by you mortals, and that's called jet skis. I was like, but
Yeah,
that was his like little mini obsession, and it's I guess his little mental vacation is he liked to dream of himself riding jet skis, but he never had. But you might find out that he
yeah,
actually was he was an extreme sports guy who raced jet skis or something, kind of a Lance Armstrong
yeah,
of the or Lance Mountain of the jet ski world. Um,
yeah,
and that's going to probably be what we find out about Mobius. Um, oh, you're blinking there for a
yeah.
second. Anyway, so that's where we leave off on Loki. So
So
we got
yeah,
a
I
whole
could
bunch
see us
coming.
getting some flashbacks next episode of that.
I think we're going to get
Yeah,
at least some origin on Mobius next episode, just because the pattern they've established with the Disney shows. By the halfway point, it's the just after halfway. So, like, if it's a 9 episode run, then on the fifth episode we got it. If it's like I don't remember, one was a 9 episode run, one was a what was
the
WandaVision.
WandaVision was 9 episodes, but it was episode 4 when it was called. We interrupt this programming to do the flashback stuff.
Yeah, so it's like 4 or 5. So it's half around the halfway point is when they do that. Since we just hit number 3 and we haven't really, I mean, we've gotten into some of Loki and Sylvie's background and this one. In the next one, we're going to have to explore at least some of Mobius, I think. Could be completely wrong. They could take a whole different track with this one. It's Loki. He likes to break the
Yeah,
rules anyway. So to make a
I do feel
statement, they
like
might
this
break their
specific.
own rules.
Hey, uh, am I wrong, or did episode 3 have kind of a Firefly vibe to it?
It did have a Firefly vibe to it. Very
That's
much a
what I
Josh
thought.
Whedon-esque Firefly
Yeah,
noir kind of thing. The Cowboy Bebop, Firefly, Cowboys in Space kind of vibe
yeah,
to it. So we'll see. I find it interesting that Sylvie used her gold torque helmet to fight as a weapon. It's got one broken horn on it. That's also kind of interesting, just as a little piece of glam. Uh,
and something I've been thinking about. Her ability is always being referred to as enchanting, right? So
right.
she enchants people whenever she takes over their mind, which doesn't work
Loki.
on Loki. Her power doesn't work on Loki. I'm confident. I'm pretty sure that she is the MCU's version of the Enchantress,
Maybe.
because the Enchantress in the comics, similar to Loki, always wore green, and gold colors. She had the same color palette as Loki, and so between the same color palette and calling her spells enchantments, or her abilities enchantments, um, I think they're combining the Enchantress character into the Sylvie character.
And there's a lot of cross pollination between DC and Marvel. A lot of the characters are quite similar.
I'm not saying anything DC related. Enchantress is a Marvel character. I'm the Marvel Enchantress.
Oh, the Marvel Enchantress, not the DC.
Yeah, in the Thor comics, there's a character named Enchantress.
Which which it turns out to be Cersei, I believe.
In the
Eternals.
In the DC side, yeah, I think so.
No, in the Marvel side, I think it's
in the
Cersei.
Marvel side. Oh,
yeah, I think it turns out to be Cersei from the Eternals. But don't quote me; it's been a long time since I read anything about the Enchantress. But I'm pretty sure that that's Cersei from the Eternals. Now the DC Enchantress was part of the Suicide Squad first movie.
Yeah, that's right.
She turned out to be the antagonist instead of one of the protagonists. Speaking of which, just 2 days ago, a new trailer dropped for the new Suicide Squad. So
that's right.
I just recently watched that new trailer. It looked pretty hot. So I'm really looking forward to that when it comes out. We've got such a lot to look forward to in media. I just heard that Rush Hour is going to be getting its own TV show on the CW based on the Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker movies.
That one. The movies. I love the movies, but if it's not actually Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, then I don't have an interest in the
show. Depends on how well they do the characters. But they're going to have their own TV show on the CW. Of course, got reminded that in August we got Stargirl coming up. We still have yet to see what's his name from John from Arrow show up.
Oh, John Diggle. Yeah, he hasn't showed up anywhere yet.
But they already said that Diggle is going to end up showing up in at least Superman and Lois, and
Diggle.
I think he's supposed to show up in Superman and Lois and in Batwoman. Oh, and I didn't touch on Batwoman. A lot's been happening there, but probably I haven't been following that I haven't been reporting on that as much. So we're already over in time. So I'm not going to add more reporting right now. But keep your eyes open. If you get a chance to watch these episodes, definitely do it. I recommend it, even if we've spoiled some of it for you. It's still worth watching the episodes. Like I said, I got Disney Plus reactivated just for Loki. I don't know how long I will keep it before I'll discontinue it again. Kind of depends on what all comes out between now and the next big Marvel release. Because I'm kind of jumping from Marvel release to Marvel release. I'm not worrying so much about like the Mandalorians or the other Star Wars things, because their series are not as fun to me as their movies. I don't care about the Mighty Ducks, but there's always some things to watch. So keep your eyes open to those. Keep watching HBO Max. We've got Space Jam's coming early next month.
Black Widow's coming early next month.
Black Widow is coming, but of course that's going to be Premiere Access, so you'll have to spend an extra $30 to watch it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen there. If I was going to spend $30, I would just go ahead and try to go to the movie theater. I think.
If I'm spending $30 to the movie theater.
If I'm going to spend $30 on it, I want to go see it on a big screen. If that happens, maybe we can do a bro date and go watch. It's because I don't think Allison cares to watch it. I don't think she's going to care to watch anything on the big screen until maybe Doctor Strange into the Multiverse. That one might talk her into going.
That's what, March of next year?
Yeah, that's not till March next year, and by then it'll be considered a little bit safer. I always sit in the handicap section over there at Alamo too, which are the best comfy chairs in the whole place. So, and I can sit in the handicap because I'm technically handicapped.
Yeah.
And you can sit in the companion chair right next to me, Laura. Be right there, dead center in the handicap area. It's the best seats in the house, man. As long as it's not one of those side seats. I don't like the side seats. I like to be in the middle.
Yeah.
I like to be kind of
Well,
even.
we'll have to talk.
We'll have to plan something. Yeah. Maybe even get
see.
Greg to go along with us. Who knows?
Well, I think I don't know if Allie's going to want to go to the movies or not. That's the hard question.
Yeah,
because she likes Marvel, she likes superhero stuff, but she's also concerned about health.
Yeah, and
anyway,
that's the thing is, your girlfriend would come first, obviously, before me.
Yeah.
But that's okay. If nothing else, maybe I just hitch a ride with you, and I'll sit in the handicap section. You guys sit somewhere else. If Allison doesn't want to go, I'll just use you as my taxi. But we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
But we've got so much coming out. We've got Suicide Squad, the new one coming out. We've got Black Widow. We've got Space Jams. They're working on the second Into the Spider-Verse. They're working on Spider-Man.
They're working on season 3 of Harley Quinn, which
right.
Did you hear about the controversy about that show?
No, I did not.
Okay, there's a scene that they were working on for the season 3 of Harley Quinn that had Batman going down on Catwoman, and that got denied by the executives or whatever. They're like, Batman doesn't do that, and so they had to cut the scene.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's gone public, and now it's kind of going viral in the nerd community. It's funny as crap to me.
Went from famous to infamous.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
but we've got a lot of things coming out still. Before the end of the year, the Ghostbusters comes out. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh yeah.
We've got.
I wrote that movie.
They got so much coming out, and into next year. I mean, we've got a good year and a half of really good movies on the docket. We've got the Tomorrow Wars coming out. We've got a lot of different things.
Tomorrow Wars looks cool, but the premise seems weird to me.
It'll be interesting to see how they justify it when you watch it.
Yeah, because if they're taking you out of the past, then that would mean you don't exist in the future, and so if you're someone that might have had children, then you could erase soldiers in the future. I don't know. Depends on their time travel rules. If they're going by Avengers time travel rules, then.
Well, it also depends, if they did the research and they actually found who they can excise without making a major effect, because it depends on the records that they are able to go by.
Yeah.
If they're able to, for instance, scan through the past and see what the ripples might be, so they know which people they can take safely. Yeah. If they do something like that in their explanation, that'll make sense.
Your life in the future is meaningless, so give it meaning by going to the future today.
Well, it'd be like these Armageddon events in Loki. If you're going to pull somebody out of an Armageddon event, that's not going to cause a new timeline or anything, because they're going to get wiped out anyway. So if you pull somebody like that, for instance, going back and getting a great warrior from Pompeii.
The only thing it would change, the only thing it would change is the number of casualties.
And you may not know even the number of casualties for sure. All it'll change is maybe remains that you find in the grave sites.
Yeah.
So, and you never know. So that's the thing. So we'll have to see how they justify themselves on
Yeah.
that one, because that one is going to take a lot of for us more literal science minded geeks. That's going to take a little bit more suspension of belief unless they can come up with a good rationalization, like for instance
Yeah.
taking people who their logs showed did not have a appreciable effect, them nor their possible descendants had an appreciable effect on the future. Like they could find out that the person they take from the past was going to die 2 days later anyway, or something, but he didn't know it. He was going to be in a car crash or something. But instead, he gets popped to the future to fight their battle. So he leaves
Yeah.
2 days early instead, and there's no car crash. It's only big ripple. So,
Yeah. Anyway.
But we're going to catch everybody up next week. Normally we go from 8 to 10, not 8 to 11. But we had a lot to catch up on this week because we did not do last week. We try to do every week, but things like internet going out or power outages and bad weather, things of that nature, people going to the hospital, any of those things are beyond our control. So when that happens, we apologize in advance. So we're going to go ahead and end it. Now, is Angel broadcasting right now?
No. He's not broadcasting at this time.
All I'm saying is because I've got like 5 people in my viewer list, so I'd love to pass this on to somebody.
Yeah, no.
But I don't know.
No, I do think he's online playing Minecraft at the moment in the private main server that our viewers are able to play with us on. But I don't think he's not streaming at the moment.
Let's see who's on my raid list. Maybe there's somebody there. Oh, there's people playing Dungeons and Dragons over on Captain Robert's channel. Let me go ahead and raid them then. We're going to go ahead and call it a night, guys. Thanks a bunch for being there with us, and we'll see you next week, 8 o'clock.
If you want to see me on anything else, you can find me on Left Claw Studios at YouTube and Twitch and Facebook.
And this is, of course, my channel, and I'll be on again in a few hours to play probably some more EverQuest again tonight. I might play some old school RuneScape, but I don't know. I've been kind of obsessed with EverQuest lately. So We'll see. I did let my free trial of Final Fantasy XIV lapse, and I'm not ready to pay for it yet. So it's either going to be one of those 2 games. Anyway, we'll talk to you later. We're going to go ahead and start this raid.
All right.
Start the raid. Close this window. 2 viewers. Raid now.
So, just real quick, your free trial for Final Fantasy XIV